committee. We have the ledgers are reconciled every month, but we hear you. So I actually have a forensic accountant with us, Mr. Bob Kleski. Bob actually was a forensic accountant and actually taught at Troy University for a while. So Bob, would you like to come up and kind of educate us on actually what a forensic audit is, what it is not, and so we can move forward and in committee answer the members' concerns? The ledgers are reconciled every month, but we hear you. So we're going to.
Hear me?
Okay. I had a handout. I don't know how far it went. About 20 of them.
Actually have a forensic accountant with us, Mr. Bob Kleski. Bob actually was a forensic accountant and actually taught at Troy University for a while. So,
my business card. Now, the only thing relevant on the business card is my name, address, phone number, and email. When I retired about 12 years ago, I dumped everything. My CPA license isn't current. My fraud audit isn't current. My commercial pilot's license isn't current. So I'm not current, but what I have here is I pulled out information from fraud examination textbook, and that's the second and third pages of the handout. The first black and white page of the handout is the crimes that would be committed for fraud. And the reason that's important is because you can't have a forensic audit without a crime. A financial audit, as you can see on the second page, is your standard annual financial audit. Management prepares financials. They submit them to the auditors. The auditors sample, test, review the counts, and then they come up with an opinion whether the financial statements fairly and honestly reflect the operations of the business. And then if you look on the right side where it says fraud examination, you'll see that what you do in a forensics, or I call it fraud audit, is there's a crime. You focus on those accounts that deal with the crime. For example, if you're looking at concealed liabilities or expenses, you look at those and you see if each transaction accurately reflects a liability or an expense, if it accurately reflects what the transaction is recording. Over on the right side, it goes through the difference between a financial audit and a forensics audit in each item. Timing. Well, your audit for your financial statements once a year. Your fraud is whenever there's a fraud. Hopefully not very often, but that's when you do it. Scope. The auditors test not all the accounts. Sometimes they test an account every 2 or 3 years. Sometimes they test an account, such as cash, 3 or 4 times a year. So, the objective of your audit is to provide an opinion. Do these financial statements accurately reflect the operation of the business? The objective of the fraud audit is, has fraud been occurred? But the two big things are who done it and how much. You want to specify who committed the fraud and how much is the fraud. Now, a postscript to the how much is and about 99% of fraud, you're not going to recover. It's spent. It's spent before the fraud even occurred. It's gone. So you're not going to recover it unless it was certain assets that were stolen, and you can recover those assets and then cash in on it. So, the real significance of a forensic audit, and I call it a fraud audit, is there's been a crime. We're trying to find out who did it. We're trying to find out how much. Turn it over to law enforcement and go from there. Okay? Any questions?
No, directors, any questions? I do have one, but.
I have none.
Okay. So, a forensic audit.
Yes.
If the board decided to focus on anything a certain individual had done over a certain time period, is that an actual audit, annual audit, or would that be a
No.
forensic audit?
No, it's separate and distinct.
Okay.
It's separate, and the reason it's separate and distinct is because it's very expensive. With a annual financial audit, you're testing. You may do 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, or you may be, in certain instances, certain accounts, you may test every transaction. With a fraud audit, you look at every transaction in the accounts that are related to that fraud. It's very expensive.
So if we said, I want you to look at every financial transaction Joe Campbell had since he's been on the board in 2021, forensic audit wouldn't necessarily be the way to go? Is that something that the annual audit could focus on?
Only if there is a cause to do that. If there is a crime or suspected crime that has been committed.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, how are you going to inspect something, test something, check something, if you don't know what it is? I mean, you can't do just a fishing exposition.
Right. No, and if you can appreciate, there are concerns because the previous CEO had a criminal history of sorts. So, but those same, based on our audits, those same controls that we have in place couldn't happen here. He has no credit card, he had no access to credit card, he had not submitted any travel vouchers or anything like that. So we're just, the board, I think, is looking, is this something that could be ferreted out in the annual audit to make sure we're good? I mean, we have a financial team that's gone through this. We have 2 check signers. There's nothing indication any check had been gone to his name or outside of his name issued by him. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of it. Is this something we need to do for our members, or is this something that the annual audit would do? And I understand the very expensive comment you made.
Okay.
But you're the expert, so we're kind of looking for some advice.
Okay. The auditors that do your annual audit, they have no requirement to investigate fraud.
Check.
They have no requirement to find fraud. What they do is they project...
Excuse me, I can't hear. Thank you.
a attitude of professional skepticism. Tell me a story. Tell me how these transactions occurred. Well, Charlie was a good guy. He was here 32 years, and we wanted to give him, and this was, this little tractor was ready for the dump, and so we just gave it to him. Show me the transaction. Show me the source documents. Show me that it was approved by the board, that it was legal, that type of thing. That's what your financial auditors do. They are not tasked with finding fraud. If they find fraud, and most of the fraud is found You know how fraud is found? Talking with people. You go talk to people. You just work with them, talk with them, find out what's going on. That's how most fraud is uncovered. You ask questions. Professional skepticism. Have I answered your question, Joe?
I think you did. You're telling me that a forensic audit actually identifies the extent of the crime, not necessarily in and of itself identifies a crime.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta identify the crime before you do the forensic audit, the fraud audit, whatever you wanna call it.
Okay, board discussion.
I do have a question for Dr. Plesky. Last time we had some people in here that told us about the hourly rates, which seemed quite low to me. I know you've been retired for quite some time, but what, on a per hour basis, what's your estimate of what the?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, but I have no idea. Ask the auditors,
Okay.
they can tell you what the hourly, and it's not the hourly rate. It's the extent of the team that they have to use, and some of the team members are very expensive. They may have to bring them in from Atlanta or somewhere else, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
let me ask you this then. So we had a team of 6 or 7 licensed CPAs from our firm that were here for 3 weeks. Does that indicate to you that this is a pretty extensive or a audit, or is it just, or did you
It
just?
sounds to me like it was a comprehensive audit.
Okay,
So I would expect the opinion on your financial statements to be valid.
okay.
And if had they found any indication of fraud, they would have certainly reported that. Is that
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're required to, but they're not required to find
Yeah.
fraud.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board? So I guess the question now is, what do we do to put our members' minds at rest that we've done all our due diligence to make sure that nothing has happened? Go ahead. Don.
So I do have one question. I think the audience is probably going down this road. So we have annual audit and the fraud audit. So the annual audit that was.
Annual audit and what?
Fraud,
Okay,
okay, two different animals.
right.
Okay, so our comprehensive audit that, to my understanding, showed no indication of anything, is that correct? That'd be a good statement? Okay, but.
Unmodified opinion, and they lauded, go ahead, hang on, let her finish them.
Okay. With no indication of anything wrong.
Okay.
But they're not tasked to go look for fraud.
That's right.
So in your mind, if you can answer, and if it's, you don't know, that's fine, or you don't have enough information, I understand. But in your mind, if a comprehensive audit, what are the chances that, some size of fraud, I'll say significant, and how you define that is up to you, will get by them with no indication?
It's probably not. I mean, if they are practicing professional skepticism, and they are talking to people in the organization, and following leads and looking, because some people, they don't like Charlie, and Charlie, keep an eye on him. We're gonna follow that. And it could be a dead end, could not.
But that's on a forensic or a fraud audit.
No.
I think he's talking about on.
No, I was asking.
That's a financial audit.
My question was, with our audit that they didn't identify any issues, what are the odds that there were issues that they did not uncover if we had significant fraud? And again, however you define significant. I mean, we had good audits. What are the chances we missed something? That's the question. And I think I heard you say there's small
Talk
chance.
to your auditors,
Okay.
because they look at each area of the financials and they set up a risk analysis of what they do and what they don't do. And they can explain to you what their risk factor was on how they analyzed, sampled, tested these areas.
Okay.
Okay?
I have
Go ahead,
a question. You said.
We need to get to Darrell.
It's okay. So you,
No, it's okay.
go ahead. Well, anyway, you mentioned there needs to be some evidence of a crime in order
Yes.
to go looking for something. Well,
For a forensic audit.
yeah, and my question would be, you know, we all know what our situation is here. We had a CEO that had a background, and could we tell a forensic auditor or a fraud auditor, we want you to go back 2 months and look at, you know, the transactions, any money that passed through that, you know, had to be signed by the CEO, and have them look for evidence of a crime. In other words, and then.
What crime?
Well, theft.
Okay, okay.
But we don't know how it was stolen, we don't know if it was stolen, but we want someone to come in and go back for the last 2 months that he was in that position and look to see, is there anything awry, is that a possibility, or do we
Yes.
have to do a bigger scope than
Yes,
that?
but you'd have to talk to the forensic auditors and ask them what it's gonna cost, and you're gonna have to negotiate what to focus on. Because like I said, when they do that, they're gonna look at every transaction in this account. Okay?
Right, okay.
What I was going to get at whenever Don was, and maybe, our regular financial statement audits give an opinion that the financial statements as a whole are free of material misstatements.
Yes.
So you're looking, the auditors look at the financial statements as a whole and see that they're materially correct. A forensic audit or a fraud audit, they're looking at every single transaction.
In certain accounts.
Yeah, in certain accounts. And omitting other accounts that have, relatively small, chance of misstatement, I guess, or fraud. So it's a completely different beast. One, you're looking at profit and loss and balance sheet and statement of cash flows and notes, and the other one, you're looking at individual accounts. So.
Right, and you're also looking at controls, who controls,
Yeah, who controls also.
who has to sign off, what's your spending
Oh, yeah.
limit, all that stuff, so.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, things like voided deposits, voided EFT transfers, voided things like that, does that ever throw up a red flag with a fraud audit?
Why would there be a problem with that?
I'm asking the question, is that a problem with?
Well, is that part of your organization? I mean, is that a normal account in your organization?
A voided check or voided EFT transfers or voided?
Yeah.
yeah, I have voided checks this week that I signed over the number and they couldn't tell it was $2.03, so.
I mean, if you have, okay, if we have avoided, here's the policy, was the procedure followed?
Correct, but I'm saying if you were looking from the outside in, would that be an issue where you had to say, hey, I want to see this?
If I was looking from the outside in, what I would be looking at is the number of management overrides of the controls. That's what I would look at. Does management override controls? Do supervisors override controls? Are refunds processed normally, or is there a lot of refunds processed? And where are they processed to?
Okay, thanks, Bob. All right, board, way forward.
Well, it did sound like the doctor mentioned that if we wanted more information, that we would see this risk assessment.
You want to talk to your auditors and ask them, what their risk assessment is for different accounts that you may feel uncomfortable about. Okay? Because the auditors set up, when they plan the audit, they look at risk assessment for each account.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
I did. Board? Any other discussion? Comments from the members? Please, come up.
I don't know if they heard you.
If you have something about the audits, come on up.
Well, I had a question of this gentleman.
Can you state your name,
Yeah.
sir? Sir, can you
John
state-
Thompson,
And your address, please,
6719 Tidewater Drive.
for our transcript. Go ahead.
Okay. And you had mentioned that there must be a crime. It doesn't have to be one that was prosecuted. It can be a suspected.
Right, yeah, the suspected crime.
Okay. And then my next question, you had talked about controls. It's my understanding, normally a good organization has like controls on the intake, controls on the output, and then controls on the record keeping. Do we have that in place here?
I don't know.
Actually,
I don't know, I didn't do an audit.
Yes, so my opening statement was, when we had our audit, she actually came here in March of this year. She actually gave us an unmodified opinion, and she actually gave us an attaboy for our controls that had been instituted under Mr. Campbell and his new finance team. So they looked at how many people signed checks, what went out, and we had 6 auditors for 3 weeks. So they were happy with our controls.
You mentioned they gave us a clean report. Was that, do they follow the gap?
They do?
Okay. Those was my question.
I was involved in your
No.
financial.
I just know that I know Bob, and he's a forensic audit and auditor, and who else was? Sorry. Who else? If you come up to the podium, you might as well come on.
Good evening, Tom Ash, 7067 Shellfish Court. And Bob, I was just Googling real quick the definition forensic audit, and a crime doesn't have to be committed. A forensic audit is a detailed audit of a company's records to be used in a court of law or legal proceeding, but it doesn't have to be. So,
But you want a crime in order to execute a forensic audit or a fraud audit.
So, at
or a
this point,
suspected crime.
Yes, yes.
And I think a
Mr.
lot of
Ash,
us
Mr. Ash,
suspect a
at this
crime.
point, can you just address the board?
Yeah,
He's a
okay.
guest.
Yeah, he's actually a friend of mine too, full disclosure, I know Bob. But I'm actually, I enjoyed y'all's conjecture and like speculation on this being really expensive, how much it'll cost. So I took it a step further, I got 2 different quotes. So to audit for the time Dallas Peavy was CEO, we're looking at about $20K. And for that, we get a research of any questionable transactions. They'll look into checks that may have been written above the threshold that require board approval, that I don't know if you guys approved or not. That's a control we need to research. Analysis of incoming, outgoing funds, any falsifying of invoices, which I believe Dallas Peavy had in his past, commingling of funds between for-profit, not-for-profit legal entities, and they'll quantify for potential economic damages. Sigma Accounting, DJ Bollinger, $20K. And they're very reputable, they're out of Pensacola. They've got 2 cases right now where similar things have happened, and they found crimes that the companies did not even know existed.
Okay.
So I'm asking the board, as a member in good standing, to
Okay.
proceed down this path.
Sure. Anybody else?
Good evening.
Hey, Bob, you don't have to stand there.
He makes me nervous.
I don't want you to feel like you're a firing squad there.
Greg Bennett, 7539 Treasure Street. And I don't know if I'm getting off base, but what I'm hearing is, you know, most of us, I think, came in here because they heard about some 46% rate increase, you know, and we're all wondering, did the CEO, is he causing us this rate increase, you know? But we're wondering, what can we do to make sure he didn't take us for a bunch of money? Well, and I'm scratching my head wondering, you know, when you take a position at McDonald's, you know, or Home Depot or Lowe's, I mean, just not even a manager position, just like a, you know, cashier. I mean, if you have a record like his, I mean, they're going to see it. You know, so I'm kind of wondering, maybe we need to concentrate on how can we prevent from ever hiring someone like that again. I mean, that's.
We'll get
that's
into
the
that when we get to the
crazy
CEO hiring committee part.
thing. Okay.
Okay?
Regarding the 48% increase that has been floating around out there, that has absolutely no basis. I don't know who came up with that and who is sharing false information like that, but that number has never even been discussed by this board.
Yeah, and that's actually what got me in here. 'cause I thought we were-
Thank you
That's
for attending.
false information that was spread out all over social media. There's no basis for it
I
whatsoever.
understand.
And there is a basis for the fact that we are doing a rate analysis right now, and there's a very good chance that there will be some rate increase on next year's budget because of inflation and every other thing. We didn't have a rate increase last year, but there's been no discussion of anywhere near a 48% rate increase.
Okay, thank you.
After FPL,
Yes,
you know.
ma'am. Sir.
Yeah.
All right, two more, then I think I'm ready to actually make a motion. Yeah.
Hi, Antoinette Shackelford, 6936 Blue Moon. I just have a general question. You said that the auditors came in, they did a thorough inspection. My question is, they said that the procedures you have in place,
Are controls.
you know, the controls,
Right.
they give you kudos for that.
They do.
How long have those controls been in?
There's always some sort of controls, but I think when Mr. Campbell and his newest team came in, there was an improvement, because in March, when Kristen was here, I actually asked that question about our controls and how we do that, and whether it could reveal fraud. And while she couldn't say it most definitely wouldn't, but she said, you know, if there was something, like Bob was saying, if they find something, they pull that thread, and then obviously it may lead to criminal things.
And so the auditors that came in, they were here for
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks, and
6
they
to
went
7.
through all the records. So if there was a major fraud, excuse me, maybe I'm not on the same page as everybody here, but if they found something major in a book, wouldn't that be reflective in a major audit? I mean, they didn't just come in to say, oh, I'm looking at a book for several things. Wouldn't that identify if there was a
As
big
Kristen
gap?
said, she couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be something, but they, like I said, they're a nationwide organization, and they license CPAs, so give them, at least for the control portion for me, but I'm not opposed to some sort of, somebody come in and looking specifically at Mr. Peavy and what he did about us here.
Yeah.
You know, but I do want to make sure it's good use of members' money, 'cause
That's where my concern is. I'm not saying that there's...
Because what happened in Texas, it hadn't happened, I don't want to say it happened. So he didn't have a credit card, he didn't fill his own gas tank, he didn't go on any trips, so the things that he did there wasn't happening here. Now, does that mean that something else didn't happen? You know, he has a finance crew with some national 100 Fortune 100 companies to oversight that, so. All right, anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, how long have we had two check signers, Darrell, do you know?
As long as I can remember.
Forever.
As long as Darrell can remember, so every check
And
requires
you
two
have to
signatures.
understand, the banks
Hang on.
don't recognize two signatures.
Hang on.
If you check with your bank, that doesn't
Ma'am,
make the difference.
ma'am, if you want to address,
But you can't
ma'am, if you
say-
want to address, if you want to address, but this is not going to be,
I'll be happy
it's
to
not going to
do
be like last time. I respect your opinion, you can have your say, but that's not going to happen here. Yes, ma'am, state your name and
Angela
address.
Campbell, 7146 Brinkley Street. I have spent the weekend going through all of the minutes and the transcripts that are on the website, and one thing has been very clear, that there has been calls for a forensic audit for years. Now, the board has changed, it doesn't matter who's been sitting on the board, it doesn't matter which general manager that's been in the seat of the board, there's always been calls and suspicions that somebody's, that you're all corrupt, everybody's corrupt, everybody that's ever served on that board is corrupt. So I am asking the board to, if Mr. Ash is correct, and it's only going to cost $20,000, let's just get that forensic audit done and put this to bed once and for all, because these are people's reputations and their integrity is being questioned. So if you all got nothing to hide, I know my family's got nothing to hide, let's just get it done if it's $20,000.
I'm ready to make a motion, but if you want to sit, go ahead, Darrell.
Can I make it?
You go ahead.
I make a motion that Holly Duval Water System have an organization-wide forensic audit for a price, at a price not to exceed, I think he said 20, so I'll say $25,000 for the periods January 1, 2020 through
April.
April 30th, 2022, or 2021 through 2022.
It'd be August.
Oh,
He left in August.
oh,
August 2022.
okay, August 2022.
Just say for the time that he served.
Okay.
And I'll provide
What she said.
to you guys via.
All right,
I mean,
hang on.
let me ask a question.
Hang on, I just need to clarify, because when you say that in organizational wide,
Well,
specifically to him, the CEO,
Huh?
or
No.
organizational wide?
Well,
'Cause here's-
the
here was-
gentleman said $20,000 for hauling of our water system. So, that,
Right, but according to our accountants, we have to stipulate a focus. Otherwise, it's not going to be that 20. We pay 30 for the annual. So if you're going to look at everything, and I understand what you're saying, but I'm asking, are you specifically looking at anything that the CEO and Mr. Peavy did? Or are you
no,
wanting to
I'm
go?
just looking at a forensic fraud audit for our organization for $20,000.
And
$25,000.
I would go one better. I mean, if we're looking at something, I mean, I've been looking at bank statements, bank books, and I'm only through 3 months. And it's a job to do this. And to sit and even getting someone else to look at it with you, it's not a 5-minute job.
And that's why
I
we
mean-
have 4 finance people to do that, but, all right, so,
I mean, you got transfers in, transfers out.
all right, are you going to second, what I'm
No,
looking
I would say I would go 50,000. I mean, would you guys not be willing to spend $50,000 of your money to save 150,000? I mean, if we're gonna nickel dime something, let's pick something else to nickel dime.
Right now, we have a motion on the table for 25.
So,
I don't have a second.
James, Darrell, go back and restate your motion, please. Hang on. Would you please let the board discuss so we can get this business done?
I'll withdraw my motion and let James make a motion.
I mean, I'd like to make a motion and set a rate of 50,000 to come back to the board. If we get in there and they find something, what's it gonna say that, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at bank transfers and cash outs of $1 million a month. We're transferring $1 million a month to accounts. How many of y'all run a business? How many in this place have a business? You want me to show you how to move money?
James, this is not a...
I mean, I'm just telling you.
Make your motion
You
and let's move on.
Move money, you do it through
James,
transfers.
make your motion and move on.
I make a motion to start at 50,000, and if we gotta come back for more, then that's what it is.
So your motion is...
No.
All right, what I'd like to do, can you remake your motion, and then we'll go with James's 50,000, please?
Okay, I make a motion that we spend up to $50,000 for a forensic audit for the Holly Navarre Water System Organization
During the time that,
during the time period that Dallas Peavy was employed.
All right? So that includes members' accounts and the whole, not just
That was my
Mr.
motion.
Peavy, okay?
And I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board? Now,
that includes-
hang on, just let me say, so when we go and get these quotes, and it's more than 50,000, we're gonna have to come back to the board. Okay?
Certainly will.
So for further discussion, my question is, we're going out for bid for these, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure.
Yes, because the board we've approved this amount, but if it comes back more, then it would have to come back to the board, right?
I believe that since it's in excess of $25,000, we have to have 3 bids. And it
Oh, yeah,
has to
no,
come
no,
back
you'll
and
get
we choose-
3 or more.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, yeah.
choose
I'd like that Sigma Accounting to be one of the bids, since they've
Oh, yeah,
already
most
come in and said
definitely.
they can do it for 20.
Okay?
I'm not
I'm all
ever
for
spending
saving money.
50 if we don't have to.
Any other discussion?
So I'm,
Thank you. She can't do her job if you guys are talking.
so I don't think that's, to me, that motion doesn't say what we just talked about. I thought I heard we're gonna spend up to 50K,
That's what I said.
Okay, but I think what the motion intent was from listening is, we're gonna go out and solicit bids from companies for a value. What will you do for 50K? So why isn't the motion just that? Come back to us with proposals, or what are you gonna give us for 50K, and we can decide, does that make sense or not make sense?
Well, it was up to 50K, and I think.
So are we gonna tell, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
Up to 50K, and getting proposals will tell us, do we want to go with Sigma accounting, or ABC accounting, or XYZ accounting?
So the proposal will say, when we go out for our bid or request, it will say, what can you do for 50K?
No, that's not what you do. I mean, that's business 101. You go
Then
back.
that's not what the motion is.
Hang on. So Darrell's motion was to conduct an organizational forensic audit for 1 January to 21 to August 22, up to 50.
No. It was for the
Period he was here,
period.
right, okay.
Those dates.
Those dates, all right. Up to 50K.
Yes.
All right, that's the motion.
Yeah, but we're not going to go out as a board and say, hey, we've got $50,000. We want y'all to spend all of it.
No. We're gonna ask for, against what, a forensic audit.
We got $200,000 in our budget. Can you spend it all,
Okay.
please?
So we're gonna go out for bids for organizational forensic audit.
Can we have some decorum in this meeting? We've got
I got it.
directors shouting out,
I
we've
got
got
it.
members of
I
the
got it.
public shouting out. None of us can hear, and this poor lady can't type anything.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. All right, that's the motion, and then the second. Any other discussion from the board?
Can you repeat the motion one more time, please, for me?
To conduct a organizational forensic audit during the time that Mr. Peavy was employed at Holland of our water system. And a organizational-wide, a company-wide, and the amount was up to $50,000.
That's correct.
Good with it?
I hear you.
All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, let's do a roll call. Mike? Aye. Darrell? Aye.
No, it's not
Okay.
the way to go.
I understand. I think we're going to get something more than 50K when you say, but let's go. I'm here. I'm good. I'm good with it. All right. Ms. Carmen, we're done with that agenda. If you,
You have met Carmen Reynolds, 9621 Sunnybrook Drive, Navarre. You have maligned my name twice tonight, not by name, but by inference, and I would like to address it. We've heard rumors about deficits and planned rate increases.
ma'am, does this have something to do with the agenda item we had? If not, if you can hold it to I'm going to let you speak, but we're on the agenda item, so unless it's specifically for
I
this.
have something significant to say.
Okay.
And I don't want
If we
you
can-
to dismiss this crowd because you want to get rid of them.
Are
Thank
you on the
you.
public forum list?
I am.
Okay, then you
I-
have an opportunity to speak for
Thank
that
you very
general
much.
items at the end.
Okay, organizational resources, employee handbook. Mr. Jared Cross, give us a,
We already finished the first draft, got sent to legal and sent back. We're about halfway through.
Speak up here.
So, the first draft was completed and sent to legal. They reviewed it and sent it back, so we're about halfway through the second draft, to be completed and submitted in October. We'll make sure the board gets a copy ahead of the meeting by meetings, to make sure they can review it for approval.
okay? Board? Okay. All right, next item. Slides there, Emerald. All right, next item is Howling of our water system spray field versus the Club of Hidden Creek golf course expenses. So there's been some discussion about this, of what Hidden Creek pays for and what it doesn't pay for, and what the spray field does and doesn't pay for. So just a little recap, obviously the Hidden Creek, the spray field, also known as Hidden Creek, was purchased in 2012. And here you can see, as it started out, there was some subsidies to help the Club of Hidden Creek pay for the spray field and other items. Some of the items, there's also to the tune of $474,000 a year as a subsidy. Slowly in 2020 and 2021, ironically, when there started to be some golfers on the board, they actually asked that to go down to cover what spray field costs. So our dilemma is that basically we don't really want the golf course to pay, the Holly Navarre Water System members to pay for the golf course, right? But it is a spray field, so even if we closed it today, we would still have spray field costs. So that ranges anywhere, we originally I heard $200,000 a year to more than that. So the club until April of 2021 didn't even have an operating agreement. They weren't really a company, Hidden Creek itself. It was kind of managed from this board. And so when that happened, there's some things happened. So when the subsidy went to zero at the end of 2021, we got $10,000 a month basically to pay for spray field costs. Those are things like the pumps that put the water from the wastewater, behind us there's a pump house, so the pumps that then get it to the spray field, into the ponds, and then out onto the land, which is where the actual spray field is. So what happened was, in our line item, the budget, we have three places we put effluent. We have the Hidden Creek spray field, we have the Holly by the Sea ponds, and we have Greskovich Ridge, which is right behind the KO Grand there off of 98. So when it went to zero in August 2021, the CEO started paying for spray field items. It was in his budget and that sort of thing for repair of the spray field pumps, electricity, and irrigation heads. But they didn't pay for labor, they didn't pay to fix the sprinkler heads, they didn't pay for the mowing of the equipment, which still have to happen if you have a spray field, and they didn't pay for the maintenance of the equipment. So again, if we close the golf course tomorrow, we'd still have to spray field costs. That's the bottom line. So the challenge for us as a board is to decide what's the right thing to do. Do we try to just pay for those costs and isolate the spray field costs so we're not subsidizing golfers? Or do we just give them a subsidy and say, there, you take it, and if it's more than that, then that's good for the golf course? So the reason it started like that is really looking for true costs and not an estimate or subsidy. So we have two ways to do it. We can continue at this, to go down this where they just paying for spray field costs, or we can get somebody in to say, what would it cost to build a spray field, and then that's the amount that we then give to the golf course as a spray field, and then everything else is out of board. The good thing for members is currently the golf course, at least this month, was only down about $600, and as for cost basis for the month of August, we're up $5,000. So Holly Navarre Water System, you as members are not paying for golfers to golf, but there's still spray field costs. So it would be great if the golf course at one day could take all those away and members are getting a subsidy for the spray field, but as golf courses go, I seriously doubt that will ever happen just because of the nature of the beast now. So I'm going to kind of turn it to the board and say, what's the right thing to do?
President, I wanted to make a comment based on what you did so the members understood. The club at Hidden Creek LLC is and has always been a limited liability company in the state of Florida since its articles of incorporation in November the 2nd of 2012. This board put in place an operating agreement that you mentioned, which is effective April 20 of 2021, and that details how the club at Hidden Creek has operated. And then the club at Hidden Creek's board put in place bylaws effective December the 1st. So I just want to make that clear. That has been a legal entity throughout.
Got it, okay.
It has those three organizing documents.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'd like to say that you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it as we're paying the spray field costs of irrigating the golf course, but every golf course out there has to irrigate their greens. So, if we're absorbing that cost, we're absorbing a cost that would normally be handled by that private golf course. And I agree that we should pay the cost of getting the water pumped over to the golf course, and I don't know how you easily split that out, but to say that we're responsible for paying for all of the irrigation and all of the turf work that's done on the greens, if you look at the expenses in the last year, there's turf expenses out there that Holly Navarre Water System paid. That was in the check registers that we got. So there's about $200,000 worth of expenses.
Right. So if the CEO did that, unbeknownst, I'm sorry.
Again, so a lot of things were done unbeknownst to the board.
So what we're trying to do is figure out what's the right thing to do. Daryl, you got
So
it. Hang on, James, Daryl, go ahead.
Thanks. Hey, I think tonight we should probably be deciding how much we're going to give the golf course, because our attorney gave us his opinion here a couple of months ago and said that it was not proper for Holly Navarre Water System to be writing checks.
No, that's not.
For the club at Hidden Creek.
No, he never said that.
You didn't say that, Mr. Dunaway?
I'm sorry, what?
Holly Navarre Water System is writing checks for bills that belong to the club at Hidden Creek. In other words, the Holly Navarre Water System wrote a check to Santa Rosa County for the real estate taxes in the amount of $40,000. Holly Navarre Water System writes a check or does a transfer to Florida Power and Light every month. So the money comes directly out of a not-for-profit account and goes to pay a for-profit business's expenses.
But that's disingenuous, because during those times, it always came from a not-for-profit to a
No,
profit.
it
didn't.
was,
Daryl,
yes, but it was a spray field cost. That's what
It was
each
paid
one
to
of
the
those.
club, and the
It was
club paid
paid
their own
to the
bills.
club, and the club wrote its own checks for
You're
its own
talking about,
expenses.
it was when you gave a subsidy.
Yes, exactly.
In other words,
And-
here's $474,000, and we'll give that to you, and you can now pay your bills. Okay.
Exactly. And if you look at it, when it went from 474 to 234, that's because we closed the restaurant, and we were able to
Not
save
lose money on
two-
it?
Yeah. You know?
Mr. President, to address Director Lynchard's question, the club at Hidden Creek LLC is a wholly owned entity of Holly Navarre Water System. So Holly Navarre Water System owns it, controls it, takes the profits from it, takes the liability from it, and how it does its accounting is its own business. So now, I believe, and I'm not certain, Director Lynchard, but I think the question was, is it proper to do, meaning from an accounting standpoint, it would seem that you have an LLC, it operates separately from its parent. The reason it does so is for the liability protection. The commingling of funds may not be illegal, but it does limit the liability protection of the separate LLC. So that's the legal question.
Okay. So we increase our liability by writing these checks every month.
Right, but I also have, because you asked me, I have that from the accountant that says it's totally legitimate under GAAP to do it the way we're doing it.
Okay.
So really, all I'm looking for is, do you want to make a motion that goes to Hidden Creek, or is the right thing to do for the members to pay only the cost at the spray field that they'd have to pay, even if the golf course isn't there?
Well, I personally think that if somebody gets in a wreck because they were out here drinking too much, our members of Holly Navarre Water System shouldn't have liability on their water system.
Hidden Creek pays their separate insurance, do they not?
Yes, but you've made it to where the separation isn't so clear. So it sounds like there is a possibility to pierce the corporate veil at that point, which means that we would be, Holly Navarre Water System could be liable for bad acts at the club at Hidden Creek.
So I have
Go ahead, Mike.
So again, Daryl, so you're saying from what you would feel more comfortable with is we say, this spray field costs $200,000. If we were to mow it and do it and keep this, we definitely have all those really, we have to do all the irrigation no matter what. So let's say it's $200,000. So it's simpler to just give the club we go back to this again, of giving them what we think is you want to come up with another number again? I understand.
Because his recommendation was we pay somebody to tell us what it costs to build. Because I understand there's a difference in sprinklers and all that. Well, I get it, but that's the point that the golf course pays for mowing, pays the labor of the mowing, pays for the labor of the irrigation. So it's kind of an offset. And all I'm concerned is Holly Navarre Water doesn't subsidize the golf course. The golf course should pay for the golf course, which is what we did when we raised rate. The NGA was mad at us because we did that. We took away their prime tee times because of that. So we're endeavoring to make it profit. We're using this event hall. So
What I'm getting at is currently Holly Navarre Water System's books shows a $40,000 expense for real estate taxes. Holly Navarre Water System did not owe $40,000 in real estate taxes. The club at Hidden Creek did. Therefore, our financial statements are wrong in that category. The club, the Holly Navarre Water System records on its books electricity every month as an electricity expense. Those numbers are misleading on the financial statements.
Okay.
What if we go back, and I know this is going back to what we did before, but what if we go back to it, I'm gonna throw a number out that I think might absorb some of the spray field costs. I don't think we need to go back and look at what does it cost to develop a spray field, because it's already developed, it's out there. But what does it cost to run and operate a spray field? And what if we go back to doing just a flat $10,000 a month spray field allowance to the club, but every single expense that happens out here on this property, Hidden Creek pays for, whether they make a profit or not. And at the end of the year, we have to write them another check, then we do it. But then it's all disclosed to the public as to how much we're paying for the spray field here.
So I want to address this to Joe. We were provided, myself, Mark, and Daryl all asked for some check registers, and we were provided those check registers, and I've got 2 pages of expenses that were paid by Holly Navarre Water System. To your knowledge, and you would ask, I guess you would ask the financial director, is that all the expenses that we've paid as a water system, or is there additional expenses that are in these check registers that haven't been disclosed on these 2 pages of expenses that I'm looking at right now?
I don't know the answer, and you've had those for weeks, so I don't know. That's the first time I'm hearing that question, so I'll get those.
Well, I'm hoping everybody should have looked at all these, especially the board, as many questions.
Well, no, because only
from the
3 of you
public.
asked for them. You got the packet that big, and I asked for it beforehand so I could answer those questions. So trying to have me answer it now is...
No, I'm asking you to, I mean, I guess the financial, I guess if I would know the answer to that if this is all the information.
Director Dabney, I can get that answer for you by the end of the week. I do not know that answer now.
Well, the answer is no, because I can show you 3 right on this page, and I can show you additional ones on these pages. So I'll go ahead and answer the question for you. The answer is no, and that we have not been given the proper information as a board, as an individual who asked for this information. So your answer is no.
All I have is your word for it, right?
No, would you like to see it in black and white? I mean, I've got it right here.
No, we're not going there. He's goading you. We're not going there.
I'm not goading anybody.
Yes, you are. You're disingenuous in that question. It should have been asked before. You've had that for a week and a half. You're trying to I'm not going there, James. All right. The question was, what's the right thing to do for our members, for transparency, which everybody wants to have, about spray field costs versus golf course costs? To Joe Campbell, we can't. A, nobody wants to buy it, and B, it's a spray field for 99 years.
We couldn't find anybody.
Hang on. If you want to address the board, you're going to come up here. Please. We're not going to have that, especially if you're not a member of this Holly Navarre Water System and you don't pay the bills. All right, so the question to the board is, what's the right thing to do? Is it to pay the actual cost for spray fields as they come out, or is it to give a subsidy of something?
Well, okay, so for me, I'll just take the lead on, and we'll go that way. I mean, for me, I prefer to see an itemized cost, so that I can then say, yeah, we paid $34,000 to run that pump 24/7 during Hurricane Sally or whatever, So it seems like actual cost, unless it's too hard to do, then.
I don't think actual costs are too hard to do.
Yeah, actual cost then tells us exactly what we're paying for.
Okay.
And it's very similar to some of the other arrangements that we have where we actually where we pay the actual cost.
Because golf course actually pays, if they have a finance person, they reimburse that to Holly Navarre Water. If they use IT, they reimburse that to Holly Navarre Water. So those crossovers are there. So hang on a second, Don has something.
I've got a solution.
Go ahead.
So I'm also in favor of actual cost, but I'm if I'm following Daryl right, to me, it seems like the concern is, does Holly Navarre Water System pay the person providing the service, or does Hidden Creek pay the person providing the service? I've got no issue with, Daryl, see if this passes your test. I've got no issue with, we establish what is the actual cost. Holly Navarre Water System, you give us a check every month that covers all those costs, and we'll pay the in-service providers. Is that what you're talking about, Daryl?
You're talking about Holly, or the Club at Hidden Creek paying the in-service providers?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And, I'm
But
gonna let somebody.
are we, so, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And a follow-up question is, are we gonna wind up, paying extra because we're paying a month in arrears because we don't have the actual cost until some point?
So you're
I'm not an
talking-
accountant, so that's an
So
question.
you're talking Holly Navarre Water gives Hidden Creek the money for the taxes and they pay it. That was your
That's
issue?
exactly, that's exactly it. That's what I've been saying since day
Okay.
one. Now, I think I have a solution.
Go ahead.
And I'm gonna let somebody else. make
Last
this
one, and
motion.
then Bill wants to talk.
Yeah, the solution, because I too agree with you that it should be actual expenses. That being said, it's impossible to know what the actual expenses are until we actually have the expenses. And writing a check each month for a different amount, or halfway through the month for a different amount, is just not acceptable, and it's not good for staff. So here's what I would do, or I would suggest, is that we make a motion to pay some number, whether it's $20,000 or $30,000 a month for 1 quarter. And after that quarter, we go back and assess what those actual expenses were. And either we owe them more money for those expenses, or we don't pay them anymore for a little while until they use up all the money we've given them. Then we're only giving them, we're reimbursing the Club at Hidden Creek actual costs.
As opposed to staff coming up and tell us what's been our cost for this year. You're thinking we can't have that?
Well, I mean, you can. Yeah, I'm just thinking that actual expenses, I wouldn't want to try and calculate actual expenses on a monthly basis. I would want them to be more quarterly or semi-annually or annually, if that's better.
But if there's a motion to pay the bill, like the electricity for the pumps, or pump repairs, because
they'll have to,
Okay.
come to the board and ask us for some.
All right, so hang on, Bill, go ahead.
I would like, when I drew up this motion, I went along the lines of, how will we figure it out? I went along the lines that Holly Navarre Water System would, in the end, pay for valid spray field expenses and reimburse or however you want to work it, either directly or reimburse the Club Hidden Creek Track, what it would cost to run the spray field if we closed the golf course. Okay? And the golf course would pay for, as it should, all the golf course operations or golf course related expenses. So, I'm going to propose that motion now, and then we can open up a discussion. I make a motion that Holly Navarre Water System Board of Directors formally approve the following spray field costs associated with the spray field located at the Club at Hidden Creek to be paid through the wastewater disposal budget line item. Annual real estate expenses, 1, the spray field pump house located on the Club at Hidden Creek, including the spray field equipment that's located in there, the maintenance of that equipment, and the electricity required to support the spray field operations. And number 3, they support the spray field hardware and software required in order to distribute that water on the course, which would be an expense that would be regardless of whether there was a golf course operation or not. Also, as the Hidden Creek, the Club at Hidden Creek shall be responsible for the following spray field related costs. This is stuff that Holly Navarre Water would be paying if the club was not here. Hidden Creek will pay for the grounds maintenance of the Club at Hidden Creek spray field, including the cost of equipment and labor required to do that effort. Because it is a little bit more extensive to do labor for a golf course and equipment for a golf course than it would be if you're just mowing it for a spray field. And any labor-related maintenance actions required to repair and or replace the spray field hardware and software other than that located at the spray field pump house, which is covered above. So basically, we pay for the grounds maintenance. The club pays for the grounds maintenance totally, and all the golf course operations, obviously, but the valid spray field costs, they're going to pick up part of that.
I'll second it for discussion. I have only one problem with that, and my issue is with the real estate taxes, because if Holly Navarre Water System owned the property outright as a spray field, we would not pay real estate taxes, because as a not-for-profit, we do not pay real estate taxes to Santa Rosa County. So I do not believe that those real estate taxes are a spray field cost that should be borne by the Holly Navarre Water System members.
Okay.
Well, I didn't want to hog it.
We got a second?
My comment is that I'm not in favor of us subsidizing the golf course in any way. I want to see the golf course stand on its own and break even. If they don't, then yeah, we write a check to them at the end of the year to get it back up, but I'm not going to vote to subsidize the golf course. Go.
But you just said, if they don't break even, you're gonna give them money at the end of the year.
That's right, because they are a for-profit company, and we have to keep them solvent so that they can operate, because we need the spray field. But I'm not gonna be in favor of writing monthly checks to the golf course, or paying any of the golf courses.
So you don't wanna pay spray field expenses, because that's just what Bill said.
Well, I'm inclined to pay the expenses of getting the water to the golf course, but they have to pay the green maintenance expenses.
Anybody else? Don, James?
I mean, I'm going back to the list of expenses that we have a $207,000 expense report that was provided to us. That's roughly what, $35,000 a month?
Any discussion on the motion on the table, James?
I'm just saying, how much are we going to subsidize it? Are we going to say it's going to give it $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month? Then we're going to turn around and go back and say, oh, well, 3 months from now, we're $45,000 in the rear. So we need to write another check for $45,000 to keep the golf course going? That's my question. How much are we saying we're going to do? You're saying it's the expenses of what it takes to spray the water.
Well, since August of last year, when the previous CEO paid for these items, just these spray field items, the club is actually in the black all that time on a cash basis. So I hear what you're saying, but go ahead, Mike.
So
we need to move forward,
well,
so somebody needs to call the vote here in a minute. Go ahead.
So, well, actually, I kind of wanted to, if I may, look to Ty. Ty, wouldn't you be able to provide us with, well, I mean, Mr. Dabney already has an itemized statement of expenses. Instead of us trying to narrow down tonight what this actual number is, again, just like we did with Fairpoint, we have an operating agreement of exactly what we spend, so that they want to know, this is what we spend. Would you be able to provide us with all the expenses so that we can go, you know what? And then we're going to have to, and again, we've argued over this now for 4 years, this way, that way. But we'll have to argue over like electricity and, that kind of thing, was anything that's shared. But I feel that if we've been arguing about this for so long because we have not.
Part of this discussion is because obviously what happened, and then Darrell, because obviously didn't realize the CEO was paying it out of the, again, wastewater treatment doesn't break down Gresovich and all the others. So just want to do the right thing. I don't want water system members paying for golf.
Correct.
We can do that ourselves.
In 2021, here's a question, and I guess we don't have the records. In 2021, was any of this going on? Or did we only subsidize the golf course $100,000?
Yeah,
Or is there additional?
Just $100,000.
Or was there additional checks written out of Holly Navarre Water to pay for the golf course? It happened in 2022. Did it happen in 2021?
I will have to get you that answer. I do not believe so, but I don't know that to be true, so. All right, we have a motion, and we had a second for discussion.
So I have one more comment. So, as I understand the motion, we're not talking about a dollar value. We're talking about, these are the items, these are the expenses that the board is agreeing will be split between Holly Navarre Water System and the club at Hidden Creek. That's the only thing we're deciding right now, is who pays for what. Is that, everybody else see that the same way? Because we keep talking about how much we're going to pay, but that's not what we're talking right now.
That was the motion to pay the actual cost, the actual bills for electricity, repair of the pumps. The pumps may not be.
Right, but we're not talking a specific dollar.
Right, other than the floor in there is gone.
So, and I'm not trying to, keep going back to it, but in 2021, we went up on our rates in 2022, if I'm correct.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Not our rates, the Hidden Creek.
Correct. Yeah,
The Hidden
yeah,
Creek
yeah.
went up on their rates.
Yeah.
In 2022.
Correct.
In 2022, we've given them $200,000. In 2021, we only gave them $100,000. We've given them $207,000 in 6 months. So how, if we've already given them $207,000 in 6 months?
Other than electricity went up with everybody else's bill, I can only surmise.
6 months.
I don't have your answer, James.
I know,
can give it to you.
I'm not saying you do, Joe. I'm not trying to bait anybody. I'm asking a general question. If we've only given them $100,000 in 2021,
Somebody call the vote.
how have we already given them double that and it's only 6 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Angela Campbell, 7146 Brinkley Street. I would like to address the board about the history of mismanagement of this golf course. In my research, I see you've had probably about 15 managers since 2013. The first one you hired had just been fired from a golf course for stealing. There's been a history of bad hires here, and there's been a history of lack of oversight from the board of directors. When there was damage in Hurricane Sally, no insurance claim was put in by this board. Why not? Why did the 4 people that were on that board in that time not ensure that the manager was doing her job and put the claim in? That's why they're short of money, because you haven't been running it properly. Why? You were there, you were all looking at the finances.
I do know that the current board actually recouped that $68,000 in
Yeah, but the
insurance.
board
It
in
wasn't-
2020, when Hurricane Sally happened, did not. Why not? Who was asleep at the wheel and who wasn't doing their job?
Well,
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call the vote. Call the vote on Bill's motion.
Joe, can I say something, Joe?
Yes, Mr. Pullum, real quick.
Okay.
We want to get out of here before midnight.
I understand.
Name is Chuck Pullman, 2956 PGA Boulevard. I've been saying it for years. I know you guys have considered it in the past, but you're in the business to run water. And I don't think you should be in the business for golf course. I really don't. Yeah, I think what you should do is consider proposals for an outside firm that is very successful, whoever they are, that you can, criticize and look through it, and let them run it, and let them make the profit. Or if they don't make the profit, you get rid of them. But let them make the profit. Open this restaurant. This is a very nice facility. The people will come and support it.
Real quick then, so we did have 3 proposals, none of them met, some wanted to turn some of this into housing and no golf course.
Right.
They wanted a subsidy, so there was no legitimate, we need the spray field. Even when Eglin, let me finish, please, if you want to come talk, come up to the podium, please. Even, see now you maybe lose my train of thought, so even when the Eglin Rib comes online, our technicians and our engineers, we will still need this spray field. It doesn't have to be a golf course. If it's not a golf course,
Right.
your house loses 30% of its value. So my point is, we have not had any legitimate offers for the golf course. Everybody wanted to turn it into something else, turn it down, and we couldn't. We have a 99-year lease. Nobody wanted to give us that same stuff, all right? So that's point 1. Point 2, we've had 3 or 4 RFPs for the golf course, for a restaurant here. Nobody wants to start it, partly because of COVID. Mr. Thiel and I, actually during one of the sheriff's tournaments, sat for an hour downstairs with a prominent, local, successful restaurateur who said, I'd be interested. Since last November, we haven't heard anything. If somebody wanted to come, that's fine. Right now, we're making money on the events up here, right? We're making money on the bar. So those are their own entity. So I hear you. I'd love to have a restaurant up here. My wife and I would love to come here. Nobody wants to do it. If you want to do it, when they had the black skimmer, it lasted, 8 months? I don't even think we got any rent from them.
Well,
Right?
in fact,
So
I
I hear you. I'd love to have one. If you know a restaurateur that wants to try and make it, I'm sure the board will consider all
Can I
those.
say one thing, Joe? I know when we were trying to put this out to bid for us to give the golf course and the restaurant or whatever out, Heart of Our Water, the system itself, didn't want to turn loose of the stuff that makes money. The turns, the golf carts, vending cart that goes around.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep all that, which restricted the restaurant people. We didn't want to give up the bar. We only want to give you the restaurant.
not true.
Well, anybody who's in the restaurant business, that was true.
It's not true, we were well.
No, we were giving up the bar.
It seems to me that,
And the bar up here has to go with it.
All right, so what was your other points?
it just seems to me that none of you can agree on the golf course and what expenses should be paid and what should not be paid. It seems like we're trying to get a motion going, and we still got this discontent among all of you. And it seems to me that it means to me, as a member, that, and I used to be a member here since 1996, I'm no longer a member, because of the way I was treated as a member, and that was with Peavy when he was here. He's gone, but here's the problem. You need to get out of the golf course business and let somebody on the outside firm run it, and y'all negotiate what you can do and what you can't do.
And so we also had 3 bids to run this, and that's what I'm telling you. They came in, but they wanted subsidies. They wanted to turn half of it into homes and not a 9-hole golf course. So it didn't meet our expectations of it has to be a spray field, and because we need the spray field. That's the bottom line. We could close the golf course tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we still have spray field expenses, which I think we're almost in line to how to get there. I don't want to spend how many of our water money, membered money for a non-golfer to subsidize golf, and that's what I'm hoping we're getting to.
So you're in agreement that if somebody did come with a proposal on outside firm,
And I think the 3, if I remember correctly, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the 3 requirements were, we have the 99-year deed, it's all a spray field, all 18 holes.
Yeah.
There was no subsidy, and I can't remember what the 3rd requirement was.
They'll have to always take the water.
Right. Oh, and the other thing was, we get first refusal to buy it back if they were going to move it on to do something else.
Sure.
So,
Well, that was on a sale, not on somebody coming in and managing it.
And we did.
yeah, oh yeah, but you didn't want to know, their management fee was $300,000 besides everything else, so in that, the water system.
How much did we give them last year, James?
Subsidy.
200,000? Who's that? This year, give to the golf course?
I asked to call the vote. Thank you, Mr. Paul. I asked to call the vote. Everybody understand Bill's motion?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a little, I actually don't understand, Bill. It is summarized as basically Hidden Creek will pay for anything that has grass and maintenance?
Repair the maintenance of the pumps, electricity for the pumps, and the irrigation heads. And then the
That is
hidden
hauling of our water system.
water system. The golf course pays for the labor for mowing, since they have the
Yeah,
folks.
mowing.
The
All
mowing
the equipment,
and the
lease.
maintenance, the labor for the.
Maintenance of the spray field.
Correction, Bill's motion included property taxes.
Right.
Right, okay, and Dale had an exception to that. But you're okay with,
I'm okay with everything else other than you just mentioned one thing. But it's going to be nearly impossible to figure out, and that is the spray heads. Because
I
if
understand
you
they're
had a
different.
spray head,
Right.
you'd only have to have a couple of them on a hole.
which is in my mind, it's equal that the golf course pays the labor and the mowing and maintains the equipment, because that may at least, even
Yeah,
now
so
there's not
it
more.
does kind of work itself out. You're
See what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Aye.
Darryl?
Aye.
Aye.
Clarification, the motion includes property taxes?
Oh.
It did, but Darryl's only.
Bill did not restate his motion to not
Right,
include
but I'm,
I'm
okay.
going to say no. If it says, if it's going to leave real estate taxes in there, I'm going to say no.
But you're okay with the water system paying if they give it to the golf course and the golf course pays, is what you're
No,
saying?
I'm not. No, not real estate taxes. That's the one thing that I'm against, because real estate taxes would not be
Okay.
owed by Hollywood
Nay?
Water Systems.
Aye? Aye? Nay? Don?
Aye. Nay.
Okay, passes 4-3. Okay. All right, so item number 5, member request for information process. So since I've been sitting in this seat, we needed to retweak that. So just a clarification for members, under the,
Before we go on, I have a comment on the previous issue.
the issue's done, Jerry. You can, I'll wait. Member forum.
At the end
Wait
of
till
the
member
meeting.
forum. I'm not turning you off, just member forum. We need to keep moving, so member forum.
I could have been done by now.
Members forum, thank you. All right, so the members request for information process. So we are acceptable to, what's the Florida statute, Will, 607 or 617?
617.
So 607 says that members can request to review documents through the water system. And our process is, we have a form on our website if you'd like to request those, because what happens is I send those to legal counsel to make sure it's a right and just request, and then we get back with you and you have 10 days. I'm just putting that out there because there's been a lot of emails that have come through. We actually use this form as a source document so the executive can track it for me to make sure we make the 10 days. So I don't think there needs to be any discussion on that unless any...
Carmen Reynolds, 9621 Sunnybrook Drive. I gave almost a year of my life helping this water system defend against the bastardizing of the East Milton Wellfield Protection Area from the expansion of dirt pits and helped successfully beat that back. I've stated before that we as members are willing to assist but feel stonewalled. We are not the enemy here. When I asked Holly Navarre Water System to make itself subject to the Sunshine Law last month, you indicated that it would be disingenuous to do that. That response doesn't give us any warm fuzzies. However, Director Lynchard, you did say there is an open meeting policy, which I have a copy of and picked up at the front door. So if it's true, why couldn't the following items be placed on the website rather than dealing with 3 different iterations of obstructionism? And be 100% open about all the policies, financials, and non-confidential information. In accordance with that stated position, will you and this board post online all established, adopted board policy actions, all policies to include the tap fee policy and financial assessments for each category, water testing results, the capital improvement program for the last 5 years, the annual budgets for the last 5 years, and finally, personnel costs for the last 3 years to include number of personnel in each year, and the check registers and invoices. In addition, I would like to re-request again for the 4th or 5th time that in the spirit of the open meeting policy, that this board extends the speaking time for members to 4 minutes. If this speaking time is not adjusted, it's apparent you prefer our inputs to be minimal, even though the members fund this operation. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Carmen, I'm going to tell you, the testing is on the EPA website. Our board meeting minutes are on our website, and our financials are on our website. Anything else you request, we'll entertain. But it's a little... No, I won't go there.
No.
Okay, board packets. So last meeting, there was...
What was the prior item? It was on the form that we...
Member request for information.
Let me ask you something. And this may be a question for our attorney. If a member sends an email asking for a specific document that is allowed under Florida statutes, and they state a proper purpose, but they don't fill out a form, are we in violation of Florida statutes if we don't provide that to them within the time allotted in Florida statutes? I mean, can we require them to fill out a certain form, or if their request includes all of the requirements of Florida statutes, do we have to give them the information?
I'm not aware of a case that indicated that there would be a fine if you required a form. Our understanding, the way the administration works, is that there is a form, so as the President just stated, there's a process to go through. I guess the question is, could I defend you if you denied it based on an email? I don't think that would probably be a very good case. I mean, if it's in written form, I think we could comply with.
The reason the form is because legal has looked at it, approved it, it has all the legal jargon, and it actually has the Florida statutes that says what they're authorized to have. Everything else goes through him. So it also helps 1,000 emails is either say, here's the form, and that's how we track it. So, but if the board thinks it, the other part is I've had 4 or 5 requests, and they haven't included I forget the verbiage about particularly what they're looking for and their reason for it. I want, check registers is not a reason.
Right.
So what's their reason? So that's why it goes to legal to make sure, right. So if the board wants to delete the form, I'll delete the form, and if they don't have, is Mr. Barnett in here? Mr. Barnett asked me in the email, I asked him the email, he sent it right back. There was no, actually, Mr. Ash did the same thing, right?
Still in Louisiana.
So does the board want to get, this has been the process for long before I was on the board, so.
I guess my question is also with the fact that we have an official form, kind of like even when, you know, in the engineering department, they fill out a form for anything, this would be at least a way for us to track something versus an email that goes to, say, you or the next CEO.
Could this be something that puts in a, I guess it wouldn't be considered a PDF, but an Adobe file, I guess is the terminology behind it, to where they clicked on the link, like a hyperlink, that brings this form up, and then it sends it to the entire board?
We can work on that. Currently, it's a PDF that is on our website, and they've been sending it wherever it goes to. It ends up actually at the CEO station, and then I give it to legal counsel to review.
So there is something on the website?
Yes, sir.
We've
Now,
been
it does,
sending-
I will say it does need to be adjusted because some members have put a paragraph on there and it won't fill. So we've got that for action.
We've been sending it, President Campbell, we've been sending it via email as we were advised.
Yes.
And then we're told there's a second way to do it, and we must fill out a PDF form. Then we send that in, and we're told that now it must be reviewed by legal to determine if our need and our justification is substantial enough for it to be released. And for clarification, did I hear you say that the water testing results, we have to go to EPA to obtain those?
At the bottom of our website, correct, Clinton or Emerald, at the bottom of our website, I could have swore that there's a link that takes you to the EPA testing. So I know I've gone to the EPA testing site because we had somebody ask, and all our testing is there from ever. So,
The water quality report is posted on our website. On our homepage, if you scroll about halfway down, you'll see 5 circles. In the last circle, it takes you right to the link where our water quality report is. It's posted there.
Normally, those are available at the monthly meetings, but there's been a recent one that the former CEO had done by an independent third party when the PFAS was identified by the Navy near Wellfield number 7 in the East Milton Wellfield Protection Area. We requested that information, and we were then referred to Fairpoint Regional Utility, who then denied the release of that information. Thank you very much.
okay, so on to section number 6 of unfinished. So board packets. So after reviewing the meeting last month, since I wasn't here, there was a lot of discussion about check registers. I know my opinion is that directors, if they ask for something in the board packets, it should be. I understand there was issues about whether it should be or not a board action, but because it was a board action denied last month, I brought it up again. The issue to me was in March, when this board looked at the rephrased finances that had graphs and everything, everybody nodded their heads, said, looks great. So for 5 months after that, there was no check register, and nobody said anything. And then all of a sudden, it's an issue. So I guess looking for the board just to say the CEO can take, if a director wants something in there for financials, then it should be in the director's packet. And I know we've had this discussion, you know,
Yeah,
if the
I mean,
director's asked it, so.
Absolutely. Again, the biggest problem is if it's not on the agenda and it's just thrown out here as this issue was last month, it doesn't provide board members to go back and find out what does it entail in terms of how much staff time, or can a board director just show up and get what he needs? So we've talked as a board, you know, that if it needs to be an agenda item, we do business at these meetings on agenda items, otherwise we will never get anything accomplished. So I mean, I'm absolutely on board with our directors having check registers.
Okay.
Anything
So it is an
financial, they should
agenda-
have access to.
It is an agenda item tonight. And I'm
Correct.
going to make a motion that going forward, the check registers be a part of our backup information for our meetings.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have another request regarding our board packets. It was close to 200 pages this month, and I'd like to know, can the packet be split out into, I'm not talking about 10 different files, but maybe 3 or 4 different files, where the transcript is its own file, and, you know, the financials are its own file.
Yep.
The agenda its own file, and then everything else in file number 4, but, you know, that would be 4 files, and it makes it a little bit easier to have the agenda up on your screen at the same time as the financials.
I don't see a reason we can't. Okay, all good there. All
I don't
right,
need a motion for that, right?
Nope.
Okay.
I think that's within my purview.
Okay.
All right, CEO update. So I have a lot to tell us. So the first and foremost is on the county agenda this Thursday, Mr. Cole has put a welfare protection item on there. So for the board's notification, I spoke to legal earlier today from Fairpoint. So we're going to attend just to see what that is. We don't know if it's just a motion to move forward to do something with the welfare protection area or not. So I'm going to drag at least one expert from staff with me so they can talk intelligently. But it is really, we don't know what's going on. We just want to make sure that they're aware that the welfare protection and clean water is still an issue for us.
We don't know if this is the borrow pit issue again?
It is. It is.
We actually don't know for sure
Right.
what's going to be proposed.
But it is on the agenda for discussion. So we just want to be prepared that if it's brought up again, that we're there to represent and voice our concern.
Okay.
And Mr. Lynch will go with me. All right. All right, so that's part one. So two, the admin building is supposed to be complete at the end of October. So the anticipation is in November, we will have our board meetings back at our building. Obviously, weather has dictated, they finally have the paving done around the building. And as usual with a 1970 building, when they did the foyer, they found that the base wasn't right, so they had to do extra base for us. So that's moving forward. The master booster pump station down there by Elevate Navarre, we're going out for the permits and the lease has been signed. So moving forward on that. And then the last thing is Holly Navarre Water does not have any sort of policy and procedure manual. They have a bunch of board resolutions and everything, and so some of the confusion, mine in particular, is where is it? Now, you've been on the board forever, so you have a matrix, a spreadsheet. I don't. So staff has to go, so what I hope to do is, it's in one place. So that's it, so that when the board makes another motion, that replaces the last one, but you have all the history. So hopefully, like every professional organization, that gives us a way forward, as opposed to saying, you tell me, but Joe, that was voted on this date, and I have no clue. Right, so that's just go ahead.
And I'd further add that I think in all future, after every new board comes on, part of the new board training should be going over all of those, so everybody understands where it stands as of that date.
Yep, and I think part of our confusion when we go through these things is we can't remember what happened before because there's no professional document that says, here it is, and it's on page 34, and yeah, so, all right, just moving forward with that, obviously.
I wish there was as well, because I've got a Excel spreadsheet that was given to me several years ago that's got about 7 tabs, and each one of those tabs has about 100 things under it, and it does have, this one was passed, and a couple years later, that one was canceled, and overwritten by another one, but it's all in there together, so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, on to finance review. Mr. Ty Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The financial results this month, we showed a July profit of $90,159.32. The drivers of that, I would point out that there was $25,000 of that in your third results driver was revenue from an annual antenna lease. And the question at the OEM meeting earlier this week was, have we received that every year since it was started? And I confirmed that since 2017, we've received that annual lease income. Water and sewer taps were lower than expected, but they did show a slight increase from the previous month. Water sales were up from last month. Wastewater revenue was above the trend line, but there was some erosion from the previous month. We did pay our 401k quarterly match. We had an additional fees for our annual DEP drinking water operating license fee of $2,000. The Professional services had $6,875 in it that was attributable to HR audit handbook review that Director Cross will talk about. And we also had some additional sampling at the Hidden Creek in Brescovich to monitor wells. That was just short of $7,000. Other than that, it was a fairly benign month with no real major drivers other than that. Any questions?
Director's questions?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the financials for July as presented.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay.
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 Make sure we get it right this time.
That's why I said nay. Okay. And I'd like to have a discussion on you of why nay. Not here.
Okay.
Tomorrow when we do our other? Yeah. Okay. All right, Finance Committee updates. Director Thiel.
Okay, we'll go ahead and update on the Eglin project. Director Lynch, I don't think you have anything else other than what we talked about?
Well, Joe went to the meeting this month.
Yeah, I don't really have anything other than what Mr. Dunaway said, other than the staff is ready to proceed. We actually have a plan, it's called L+1. So the day the lease is signed, then we start our process. 30 days to bid, 30 days to contract. It's going to be tight. We probably won't start construction until the new year because I'm told that contractors don't like to work over Christmas. But other than that, we are, and our engineering firm, are ready to proceed.
Capital improvements, at the last meeting, the board voted to go to every other month for that, so we did not have a meeting on capital improvements this month. However, there is a sheet in your files to look over. There was nothing significant to report, no changes, significance in that. Director Kennedy, do you have anything on the budget?
No, sir. You and I attended the O&M meeting, and as you guys saw on the finances, nothing else to add.
I have nothing else overall. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. CEO Hiring Committee, Director Lyncher.
We had a meeting, supposed to have a meeting on Tuesday, or Thursday, to go back over, staff's supposed to be compiling the board's input, I believe, and going to give us a little more information.
And we already have that job description ready, right? I'll review it in the morning and get it sent out.
Okay, send it out. And I've got some personal things going on right now, and I need to not be the head of that committee anymore because I know that's very important, and you're meeting every week, and...
Can I be the head of that committee?
Take care of some things. So, yes, you can be the head of that committee as long as you agree to let everybody else still be a part of it.
Oh, yes.
Because I plan on
No.
attending the meeting.
Well, when you come back.
I just don't think I'm going to be able to be the lead on it.
Yeah, okay.
Are you going to change the name of that committee?
I have a vested interest in that.
You did
Let's
seem
keep it for
kind of
that for now.
animate about wanting to
Yes.
get that done.
Okay. And the meeting is at Thursday at
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, yeah.
Every Thursday.
For
at 3
members,
o'clock.
we're attempting to get a proper CEO in here to do this job so that I'm not sitting in the seat. Sooner as possible, it's not fair on the staff, although I am having a good time with the staff, although. So hopefully, within the next week or two, that'll be out for publish. It'll be out on where we ever decide, the committee decides to publish it and move forward there. I can also say categorically that we are not using the headhunters we used last time. And we actually have agreed to have a security clearance type background investigation of the next person that sits in the CEO seat. So that's one thing the committee did vote on that I think I can pass, right?
Executive director's seat. Maybe.
All right. Administration, okay. Board election packet. So we are at the crossroads where we have to approve this month or we won't make the deadline for all the notices and everything that goes out for the election board packet. So it's gone through legal, it started with staff, and so if you've had a chance to look at the packet, it covers the timeline. The one thing we do have to decide on is appoint a director for the canvassing board. Last year it was the CEO and the
Director Miller.
legal and Director Miller. So last year it was somebody that wasn't rerunning for election, obviously. So I'm going to leave that for board discussion.
I don't think our election packet is in line with our bylaws. We can't prevent members from running for the board. The questionnaires that are in there and the requirements exceed what our bylaws say.
What do you mean?
Someone is eligible for a director. Oh, there's a whole background check that, they're requiring. Have you been, found guilty of a criminal offense? Have you...
liens or judgments.
Criminal charges pending against you. There's nothing in our bylaws that says that somebody that has a criminal charge. I'm not saying that we wouldn't.
So you want a director on there, just like Mr. Peavy, that's what you're saying? So you
can't. We can't prevent them from running for a director because there's nothing in there that says that.
Okay.
Joe, you said that, or Mr. President, you said that legal had reviewed this, so I'm assuming they compared these documents to our bylaws to make sure that they were in compliance with our bylaws and didn't ask for anything in addition.
We've always done a security background check.
No, we've done a criminal background check, yes.
Right.
This is a lot more detailed.
So you don't think you ought to ask if a director has had a criminal record expunged, professional license suspended, adjudicated with held a criminal offense?
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't prohibit that.
pending against you. It doesn't mean they're guilty of anything. They've just got criminal charges. I'm not saying that that's who we want on our board. The public will decide that, but we can't rule somebody out and tell them you can't be on the ballot.
So you don't want to even ask them that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean,
I
don't think they have to answer.
So the page in particular that you're looking at.
Candidate
doesn't say you're
application, security
disqualified.
background check.
There's a candidate disqualification on, I don't know, there's no page number on this.
If we want to look at that sheet, that would address this issue.
So hang on, let's go with Mark's thing. So you want to remove the security background check candidate application questionnaire?
yeah, I mean, we're still going to do a background check on them to make sure that they can be on the board, and be on our liquor license, but I don't think we can require them to answer those questions.
So I'm going to pose that to legal. Is there anything that prohibits us from asking those questions on an application for a board of director?
No. Your bylaws provide the minimum requirements, but you can set your director requirements and qualifications. It's reasonable.
So our bylaws say the only requirement for being a board member is that you must be a member in good standing. And we're allowed to make those, to create rules that are stricter than the bylaws.
Correct.
And it's legal?
Do our bylaws define what a member in good standing is?
Yeah. We do have.
Hang on, let legal counsel, you ask them a question, let them answer.
No, that's correct. You may set your requirements. Your bylaws provide the minimum guidelines, but you can set additional requirements as a board.
So going back to the candidate disqualifications, there's two of these disqualifications that are set.
Hang on, where are you going? What page?
On whatever page you
175
guys have decided to put part 6 of.
Candidate disqualification.
Right.
There's two items in there particularly that are set in place for two current board members to not be eligible to run on this board. Is that not in that objective of what you've put in these 6 items?
No, sir. When the staff sat down, we discussed it. We did research on qualifications for board of directors and disqualification for board of directors, because we've never had one, right? So if we'd have known Mr. Peavy was running for the board, so let me finish, right? So as we go down here, let's see. So liens and other judgments, that's rationale's fiduciary responsibility. Illegal and unauthorized connections to Holly water or tampering charges. We've had 55 members steal water. 55 have taken water they didn't need, didn't pay for, and paid a tampering charge. So that's why I'm particular that one. The criminal history over the last 2 years, 21, and Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, 21 members in 2021, and this year so far, 33 members have literally taken water. Okay, so that's why that is. And then
one board member, that would be me, because myself personally, asked for someone to come down, I want to get this meter hooked up, I want to get this meter hooked up, I want to get this meter hooked up. Never happened.
So,
Me as a board member,
don't go there, James.
I'm going there, Joe.
Okay, if you want me to talk about it, I will.
I have an open book policy.
Okay,
I'm not
all right.
concerned about it.
If he opened it, can I talk about it? Sorry, Will. So can I talk about, Director Dabney admitted that he had this, can I then talk about an open forum?
I mean, I want to know why, so is this a
James, I
policy
didn't
gonna-
target 55.
So is this policy going to be going forward, or is this policy
I'm asking.
retroactive? That's my question. If it's retroactive, then I have a problem with it. If this is going forward, then I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I
From
think
today's date.
Right now, I think you have a question to the lawyer, whether or not you can speak about Mr. Dabney's
So,
something.
Mr. President, I would advise against discussing anything that's under further investigation. So I would advise against that.
Okay, I won't talk about it. All right, so other things, just for members to know. So some of the other things is criminal history within the last 10 years, excluding speeding tickets, revocation or suspension of professional license or certification.
Why is that?
And then, well, again, it's fiduciary responsibility and ethical issues.
And we have another board member.
Hang on, I'm not advocating for one or the other. When we looked at that, there was nothing disqualifying board members, right, from going. So we did a search, this is the things that we came up, if some of the board doesn't want to do, that's fine. And then the last one is a second violation of the code of conduct by a board member, because the board does have a code of conduct. And it says a whole lot of things of what can and can't happen, conflict of interest, how you treat other board members and staff, and that sort of thing. So, all right, so there's discussion.
I'd like one question.
Go ahead, Don.
Can we, so I didn't hear an answer to James's question, are we only talking going forward? This is not to be applied retroactively, correct?
To me, if
This is
you...
going forward.
I mean, how many years do you want to go back? I mean, but we just looked at the last 2 years, because I asked the question, because some of this activity is actually, should have been illegal. If you hook up to a fire line, that's a safety issue. If you hook up to other lines that aren't like FEMA lines that aren't, that's criminal. So I'm just saying, we do have, after your second attempt, our policy says we can call in law enforcement. So we just talked about what disqualifies. Obviously, a lot had to do with Mr. Peavy and his issue, and we said, okay, let's look at the whole, the staff we wouldn't hire with criminal history. So that's my thing. Okay, don't go away. Don, any other questions?
No.
So going back to the same
Don't
question,
think-
is this, Don asked a question, a simple question. Is this going forward, or are we going backwards? Are we going to say, if you did it in the past, you can't be on the board, or is it, if you do it going forward, you can't be on the board?
Well, since you already admitted it, that's a hard question to answer.
No, I wasn't sitting here trying to hide it. I mean, I asked for taps to get put on, and that I had paid for when I bought the property, and still ain't done.
If he had,
Yeah, anyway, my question is,
I'm prohibited by lawyers from talking about your account.
It's probably a good thing.
No, yeah, for you.
Not for me.
For you. Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
hold on.
Go ahead, Myra.
So I guess to the board is, I mean, we had a really hard lesson learned with our past CEO that, we didn't look hard enough. So I guess my question is what's wrong with holding the same type of bar to our board members as we would going forward? So that's my
Let's hear
question.
what members think about it. Yes, ma'am. Name and address?
Michelle Hanratty, 7755 Fenwick Street. And in full disclosure, what I do for a living is human resources.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm not sure your background, sir, as far as being an attorney, but from an employment standpoint, I'm thinking you guys are treading in a very, very dangerous area.
Other than one thing, we're not employees.
No. What I mean is when you are asking somebody all of these questions, okay, you are treading in a very dangerous area. I cannot ask somebody if they have had a criminal prosecution in an application. But I can do a very detailed clearance background check on them because they have signed a waiver allowing me to do that. Okay? So I think what you need to look at, and you need to have an employment attorney guide you with this, okay? And again, I'm not trying to say, I don't know your background, so I don't know.
Hold that thought. Did not Daniel look at this? Well, we have one.
Okay.
He looked at
I'm
it.
shocked.
He looked at it.
I'm shocked.
He's pretty good.
I'm shocked.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just telling you, I'm shocked, okay? Because I have worked for very, very, very large companies.
Got it.
We don't do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? I think it would be smarter to have somebody that is interested, and then they are saying, I agree to have a complete clearance background, than you getting into their world and into their lives. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. If the board approves this election procedures, is this election procedure going to nullify any current board members from running for the board in 2023?
Sounds like it to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Are the bylaws not a legal document? And where in the bylaws does it say that they are the minimum standard, that you can do whatever you daggone well please to do beyond the bylaws? Because, oh, I'm sorry, Debbie Gano, 2143 Chatsworth Drive, I apologize. So, my question to you is, setting up there, you can arbitrarily establish standards that future candidates for your positions have to meet, and you can disqualify people that you don't want sitting on that board by establishing those standards that go beyond the bylaws that state the only requirement for sitting on that board is to be a member in good standing. I think you guys need to reconsider what you're doing, because you are sitting there and showing your cards that you have it out for certain people that you don't want on the board.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Carmen?
Carmen Reynolds,
You sat in the clock.
Sunnybrook Drive, Navarre. I just wanted to point out, it does seem like there has been a meeting in a vacuum to kind of jettison, if you will, or preclude current board members from running again. I know that there are 3 of them that have advocated for the release of financial information, and I personally applaud that over the objection of the remaining 4. I don't know why that is, but it is what it is.
Ms. Carmen, just real quick, see that stack of papers over there? Those 3 board members, that's what they got when they asked for it. So, just so you're aware.
Right.
And that's our 6 months of check registers, supporting documents, all
I'm
that.
really glad they did get that finally, but it was over the objections of this board last month which denied it officially. I know you were not here. For the record, you're wanting to identify all of these constraints. There is a member on your senior staff who has had significant financial issues and a spotty work record, so I will just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Angela Campbell, 746 Brinkley Street. Obviously, I don't think any of the members want anybody running on the board that isn't completely whiter than white and doesn't have the best interest of the members at heart. And obviously with the HR, obviously with the HR concerns about mandating this, why don't you just as part of the packet include them as questions, yes, no answers, and let the public decide. If somebody decides that they're not going to answer a question, then clearly they have something to hide, and then rather than board members being elected by name recognition, they can start doing their own research. Shouldn't be that difficult to do a yes, no questionnaire.
Thank you.
So, and I do have a follow-up question, I guess.
Mike?
So again, I'm with this lady over here. I mean, I'm not an HR person, but is there not a better, instead of asking, how do we develop into someone's history once they've signed a waiver? Once you do that. So I guess my question is, how is it better instead of saying, you got to tell us this, versus allowing us to then be able to do our own homework? Now, granted, every time we do our homework, it costs us money to do so, but it's going to be on us. So I guess I feel a little, even though this sounds good, I'm a little
So we do
concerned on an
HR, the normal HR check, like we all went through the criminal history check, but it's the same one that we did with Mr. Peavy. So
Right, and
it's
when
not
that
gonna-
one missed it.
Well, so it would have missed. Yeah, it would have missed. It would have missed. So
If I could suggest, President Campbell, there are different levels.
Joe's good.
I'm sorry, Michelle Hanratty, 7755 Fenwick Street. There are different levels and different companies that provide the services. They range, and I'm going to make an assumption that for hiring people, you were going through this because of the concerns with financials, background, if they're driving a company vehicle, whether they have a DUI or not. So there are processes, and I see the nodding over here that is being done. So that can be done, and again, it is in the application process where you ask them, are we allowed to run a detailed background on you? And again, there's got to be the cutoff so that you all have time to do this. Get the information, because it can take 7 to 10 days or more, okay? Depending on how many locations they've lived in. That's the key.
Yeah.
Because you have to get that information, you send them the link, they fill that link out, it goes out to all the municipalities, you get a report back that provides you with all this detailed information. And I know I'm going into a lot of detail here, and I apologize.
No, you don't have to, because the board, believe me, with Mr. Peavy, the board went all this, especially with the no later, so.
So, but for those people that may not realize this, okay, these are things that protect the board, the organization, and us.
Yeah.
Okay? So that we are getting quality people that have good intentions to be a part of the organization. And if you find something, that's when you go to the attorney and say, okay, we need to bring this person and have a conversation before their name gets on the ballot. Okay?
Okay.
That's my thought process, is to the proper way of going about doing this. You get all of that taken care of in advance before getting egg on your face after the fact.
Okay, thank you for that. Board discussion.
Well, you know me, I got another question.
Go ahead.
And if I may, Jared, what would you suggest, I guess, again, versus for us to, without disqualifying someone, to be able then, again, I'm not really in favor of this disqualification, right? I mean, it just seems we're really going detail into somebody's life. So what would you suggest that we could do to protect, to play fair? So we're fair, equitable across the whole, everybody's spectrum.
Well, in agreement with her, so this is board members who are elected unpaid, which is per our legal counsel. I would always suggest
Speak up, Jerry.
again.
Speak up.
They are unpaid elected members to represent the water. So they're actually held at less strict restrictions as far as hiring somebody versus somebody you're going to elect. So always check with Daniel, our legal attorney, or with Mr. Dunaway, where I'm doing with that. But yes, if we were going to pay people, a notification in general, I'm going to run this background on you, and this is what it's going to be used for. Here's the reason why. I would suggest something to that.
Yeah, see, I feel more comfortable saying, we're going to run this on you, and then they sign a waiver.
So you're talking about the candidate application and security background check?
Yeah, sure.
So asking that. So you want to take that out of there and just run the background check? So they don't have to answer anything about whether they've had a criminal record, sealed, criminal charges pending, anything like that?
And I'd like to have the candidate disqualifications removed
Hang on, James, we're doing one thing at a time. So that's what you have an issue with?
Mine is truly the disqualifications is where I.
The disqualifications as well?
Yeah.
All right.
No, I have no problem. I guess the question is we're going to up the ante on when we run for the board, how well we should be searched as well.
My question is, do the bylaws define what a member in good standing is?
It just says if you're a member.
So a member in good standing is just a member.
Right. So here's the other thing that the board can do. So it is in the bylaws that the board can remove membership for cause for whatever the board deems unfit. So the board can do that. You can still get water services, you're no longer a member, you can't run for the board and that's it. But that's never been in place because never found out we had some of these issues. So we never had the Dr. Peavy thing, Mr. Peavy thing before. So, okay. Don, any thoughts on your end?
So is that going to be the next avenue we're going to go down? We're going to try to remove members?
Can let every board member have an issue? Maybe we need to look at, okay, let's put a timeline so that there's some,
Yeah, let's.
what's the word I'm looking for? So, you paid your penance and now you're back in good stead. I don't know.
So, what happens if we don't approve this? What happens if we don't approve a packet this evening?
We will miss our timeline for the election.
Which portion of it?
Well, from what I'm
Ms.
hearing,
Amber?
I think we have a big risk of that.
You would miss the press release, you would miss the candidate application release. That has to be done by 10:30. The notice has to go out on the bills by 10:11. So anything that would not take place until the next board meeting, which would be on October 18th. So anything that has to be approved before that, you would miss.
We still have to approve.
And to go further, so you asked for my thoughts. My thoughts are, I don't have a problem with this from the aspect of, if I'm going to entrust someone to help govern our assets, I don't have a problem raising the bar. And if I can't meet them, I can't meet them. But also got reality here. I don't think this is passing tonight, not as written. So we either need to come to some compromise or we're going to have to.
So the same board members that have an issue with Mr. Peavy being a criminal or whatever he was, the acts that he did, think it's okay for directors to sit on this board with those same issues.
It's not up to us, it's up to those folks out there who sits on this board.
And I never
And
said.
we can't put restrictions on any one of y'all being able to run for this seat. Anyone that's a member in good standing should be able to run for this seat. They need to pass the background check and they do.
So you're saying
something
if you take water, unauthorized connection, to pay a temporary thing, you're a member in good standing. That's a good citizen.
That's up to the members of this company to decide.
All right. Ma'am. Okay.
It's kind of like how the members know what money we're paying to TCH when we're writing out of Hollywood water.
All right.
Yeah, again, Joe, my concern, I like, the packet's good for me, except for the disqualifications part. I think we're overstepping our bounds.
And I do have one other issue, and I'm not sure if it's going to be addressed in here or not, but I believe I'm not sure if it happened this past time because I didn't make an issue of it, but the previous time that I ran for the board, they asked me for my social security number.
Right.
And whenever they did that and I filled out the paperwork, I asked specifically that my social security number could only be used for the election process.
Correct.
And I was told no. That's what I was told by Landry. Because I wrote it down on the top of their form, and they said, we cannot process it.
Okay.
So that needs to be changed.
What part?
The part where you're going, where whoever's doing the background checks can use our backgrounds for something other than this election. Can use our information for something other than this election. I'm not signing up so you can go do whatever you want to. I'm signing up for.
All right, so I'm waiting. Where is that in the packet, Darrell?
It's not. That's the problem.
So we'd have to get their social from someone to do the
Well,
background?
you have to get social to do the background check, yes. But the
But it's not in
background
here.
check can only be used for the purposes of this election.
Right.
And we
And
should,
I was told no.
well,
Doesn't sound right to me.
right.
Damn right it doesn't sound right.
Okay,
I'm
So-
going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the election packet as submitted, but with 2 deletions, the candidate disqualifications and the background check question sheet.
okay,
I'll second it for discussion.
okay. Any other discussion?
I would like to add one thing to the motion that we, on the candidate application sponsors, we have to get 25 names and all that.
Yes, and it says
That now
that-
says it has to be original signatures, no Xerox and all that. I would like to add a column for the date that it was signed. Will you amend your motion to incorporate that?
I'll amend my motion that way, but is it 25 or 30?
Background check.
It's 25.
Required 25. Original signature.
Original signatures and date.
And amend my motion to add the date to that page.
Okay, so for me, again, clarifying what I'm looking at here, you're saying to take out, I'm good with the disqualification, that's, yeah. What page are you on for the other
It's
one?
the security background check question sheet. I think some of those questions on there are
Page,
not appropriate.
page 172 on your
Roger that. Okay, that one.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Mr. President, can I ask for a clarification? Is Director Miller, is your motion to remove the entire candidate disqualification page, parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
Yes, that entire page and the candidate application security background check questions. That's yes or no columns and 13 questions.
Understood.
Yep.
Mr. President, I do want to note that because the club at Hidden Creek is a wholly owned entity of the Holly Navarre water system, and because your processes in place right now are that you have directors of the Holly Navarre water system as managers of the club, and because you hold a liquor license, you cannot be a felon and hold a liquor license. So I just want to point that out, so you wouldn't be able to have that person as designated.
And so to that point, yeah, if we're taking these 2 pages out, and I apologize if I read right over it or never saw it, but, so we've talked about having them sign a waiver so we can do a background check. Is that in this package? Because it didn't jump out to me.
It is, there is a thing at the end of the application, you authorize them to do a background check. I can't tell you where it is, but it's in there. It's been in there for years.
Yes.
So going back to,
Process of background check.
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
End of the application.
so Will, what you just said,
I'm good with.
Hang on. Go ahead, James.
so Will, what you just said on the felony conviction and the liquor license, is that all board members, or is that just the ones that go on the liquor license?
That's the way we've always.
No, Director Danny, that would not apply. I mean, you could have 4 felons, you just couldn't have all of you.
Right, I'm asking the question because I already knew the answer, because I've had multiple liquor licenses. I was on the liquor license for this establishment, TCH, for years. So if I was a felon, I obviously wouldn't be
Okay. That's the motion, and there's a second for discussion. Any other comments, board members?
I'm sorry, what was Mr. Beal's?
They add a date to the signature page.
Very good. Okay, I'm good.
So we avoid any possibility that you can use previous.
Okay. All right. Let's go roll call vote.
What are we doing?
Under those.
Voting on the motion.
Voting on the motion.
Aye or nay?
Remove.
Are you calling, or you want to go down?
Calling the vote. Roll call.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, Holly Navarre website, Board of Actions weather meeting. So as I was going through a whole lot of board actions while in meeting. In the spirit of transparency, there was a lot of things in the past. Oh, sorry, thank you. So we still have to appoint a director for the canvassing board? So,
I'd nominate Mark. He did it last year, and he's
Okay.
not running for election. If you've got time for it.
I'll second that.
I'll accept the nomination.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Abstain.
You can vote.
Okay, so,
Mr. President, I would note that if you are still the acting CEO at the election, you would also be a member of the canvassing board.
Do we need to vote on that, or?
you can vote to remove me before that. All right, so board action without a meeting. So as I was going through a whole lot of our meeting minutes, there's a lot of, especially way back in the past, about monies being spent and other board actions that members don't get to see. So in that spirit of transparency, I would entertain a motion or make a motion that all board actions without a meeting for the last 10 years be posted on our website, just like meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay?
I'll say with the caveat that as long as it's not personnel or legal related.
Right.
Okay.
Well, they will be redacted, though.
It'll be rejected.
So they could be there, but redacted.
I'm completely in favor of those
Yes, sir?
being on the website.
You're going to tell me we can't do that?
No, sir, I'm gonna suggest that you entertain a motion, you have someone who can make it, you're
Okay.
holding the chair.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Darrell will make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'd like to also, every board action without a meeting, we need to make that part of our agenda at the next meeting where we announce at our meeting that this board action was done since our last meeting.
Okay. I'll second that.
There's a motion and a
Okay,
second.
no,
Yeah.
You wanted to amend it?
I'll make a second
Okay.
motion.
All right, on Darrell's motion to have them posted, obviously unless they're personnel or legal, will be redacted. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, now go ahead.
And I'll make a motion that in addition to that, we announce at our next public board meeting any board actions without a meeting that took place since our prior meeting.
I'll second that. I believe we used to do that, but I don't know how we got away from
Yeah,
it.
it's not on the agenda now, so.
But if it's already approved, so we're just announcing we've done it?
Yeah, well, you know, as a matter of logistics, we're not going to post them to the website till we approve them at the next meeting anyway. So we announce it as part of our meeting minutes and transcripts approval.
Okay.
We announce what was done, and then it gets posted.
Okay, so that's your motion. Do I have a
Yes.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Okay, brief description on Messi. So as we were going through it, just confirming that there is administrative procedures, that they follow the same procedures for flow-throughs, as finance calls it, that if they use something, they pay for it and that sort of thing. But the only difference is for that versus the Club of Hidden Creek is there's no directors on that board. So part of the discussion was, should they not be the same as the Hidden Creek? If we're going to treat Hidden Creek where they have directors on it, should Messi not be on it? And really, that's the only issue with, no, it's not an issue with Messi. As we were going through, as I'm reading all this stuff and finding out how we do business or don't do business, that kind of hit me in the face as, you know, one of those things, if we're going to treat Hidden Creek one way, we need to make sure Messi is, at least as far as directors on the board, at least that's Joe Campbell's opinion. And I think I've talked to a couple of you, and you're kind of with that. So, the other thing is, for taxes. So we had to have a board action for the CEO to sign taxes for the other two entities, but we didn't do that for Messi. So I would entertain a motion that we do that as well. That before Messi signs their taxes, that the board review those taxes going forward, because that was the...
It would be just to follow the same procedures as other...
I make a motion that we add board members to the to the Messi Board of Directors, the same as we have with the club at Hidden Creek, and that the tax return come before this board for approval before signature
Okay.
annually.
I second it.
So I have discussion, I just want to clarify. So if I heard right, Daryl used the word add, like add directors to the board. Is the intent, we're going to make the board similar to what we have at TCHC. Right now, it's 3 directors. I think the thought would be that we get back to someone in charge and 2 directors. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
That there'd just
That
be
is
3
exactly what
people
I meant.
still?
That is
Okay.
exactly what I meant.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion, and did I hear a second?
I got a second.
Second? Okay, any other discussion?
Well, ultimately, we're going to wind up having to, are we going to decide which board member would like to sit in on that messy board? Okay.
Do we want to have that tonight, or we want to delay that?
Defer that
for-
till after the next election when we have the right board member, because there's a chance that some of the board members that would want to be on that will not be reelected.
Are you going to amend your motion to make it after the next election? Or do you want to do, I think we ought to do it now, but,
Okay,
we can do it now.
yeah, I think so.
okay.
Who are the current members of the Messy Board?
Mr. Long, Mr. Phillips, and the CEO.
So it was.
And I'm not opposed to removing the CEO and having it 2 directors and one of our 2 engineers, because my understanding is one of the engineers has to be on the board because of their license.
We won't have a firm anymore.
And I'm not opposed to having it not be the CEO. And I honestly think, moving forward, it should not be the CEO.
Right, so it'd be 2 directors and Mr. President of the messy.
Okay, so let's go about the 2 directors first.
Well, we have a motion on the table
We
right
kind of
now.
need to approve the motion.
Okay, so no, that's what I say. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Any motions for those positions?
Anybody want the position?
I'd like to be on that board.
Okay. You want to be on that board?
Phil's got his hand up before.
Go ahead.
As part of this motion, when you decide who's what, could you please name one of them the secretary of the corporation? Secretary, no, I think it's just secretary, but they don't refer to the treasurer in our,
And you guys wouldn't do that at your own board meeting? You want us to do it?
which would be more appropriate. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Do that.
All right.
Just transparency there.
Any other? Okay, well.
I'll be on it with Daryl, that's fine.
What's that?
I'll be on it with Daryl if that's.
I was going to volunteer since I was a CEO, but
Yeah, well, let's hold it for the, James, do you mind if the CEO holds it until we get a new one in to reevaluate? You have Daryl and the CEO?
I thought he said he didn't want to do it. Just-
well, no, I was doing this as a director versus the CEO.
Yeah.
I think you can do that.
It's fine.
Okay. So I hear Director Lynch and Director Campbell. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, Mr. Phillips, operations report.
I will again only point out the most important thing to us, which is I&I, and it was a disaster last month. I&I believe, ran 488,000 gallons per day, putting us at, for the month, a little over 2 million gallons. I believe Clinton talked to Chris earlier, and we are back down to about 1.5 to 1.7 right now, Chris.
So explain to the members why I&I is a negative impact, and maybe even the Woodmont easements and how that plays into it, please.
Sure. So the concern is that Holly Navarre water system holds a wastewater discharge permit, and that permit limits Holly Navarre, there's 2 parts to that permit. One limits Holly Navarre to 1.968 million gallons a day, but then they have an overall limit which has been reduced to, I believe, 2.5. Don't quote me on that, but so if I&I were to be large, it could cause Holly Navarre to exceed their permit with DEP for the discharge to the reuse sites. Excuse me?
Fine, I.
I&I is inflow and infiltration. So anything that enters the wastewater collection system that is not wastewater, if stormwater runs into the top of a manhole, if groundwater enters into a broken line or lateral underground, that is I&I, inflow and infiltration. Holly Navarre, starting probably about 6 or 7 years ago, began to experience significant I&I. There has been a program for the last 3 years now to specifically identify and correct those issues, and there's been a substantial number of corrections. What we see now, instead of I&I, the problem lasting for a long period of time, like during the period it rains and then 3 or 4 or 5 weeks afterwards, because groundwater is elevated, what we mostly see now is inflow around storm events. A significant part of what's underground has been corrected. There is one major area that still exists in the franchise area that we know is a significant contributor to the problem, and we have it right now. And that is the Woodmont area, in the Hollywood area, where everyone knows that we had to ask some folks to move some fences so that we could go in there and clean out those drainage ways. Those drainage ways are shared between the county and Holly Navarre for Holly Navarre's wastewater collection system. And that has been a notoriously bad area. Those easements have now been cleared. I'm stealing Clinton's thunder here. And the process will begin to evaluate via camera and physical inspection the problems in that area for them to be corrected. And we expect that a significant part of the problem will be fixed at that time. In the meantime, even though last month was bad, the annual average is only 105,000 gallons a day. So we're still in good shape.
Okay, thank you. But the point is, that's extra cost for us to treat stormwater that we should have.
That's correct.
Okay.
I have one question, or a couple questions on the gallons of water accounted for. You got a tank one overflow that's like 4 million gallons. Is that something that should have been caught, or is that something that?
We were waiting on parts to get, as you know, it's hard to get parts that you need. We still have some metering issues too that's accounted for in that water loss of 18%. Get us back down to 8.7.
Yeah, account for is great.
Lead time where we used to, we would get things in a couple of days, now it's taking us weeks to get the correct issues. So we just can't shut it off. Everybody's got to have water to drink, so you just can't shut it off.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, and how about the Pepper one that was 2 million gallons for the wastewater treatment plant? What is that in regard to, you know?
2 million gallons to wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah, it says 2090 Pepper Drive, number 3, wastewater treatment plant, 2 million gallons that was accounted for, but.
Yeah, that's water that goes through a meter at wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
It's not water that's used by customers, so it's listed in the separate section.
Okay.
It's other accounting.
Got it, thank you.
So in this number of water loss, though, that would include, like, the folks that tapped into the fire hydrant here in the last couple of weeks and that sort of thing?
That's correct.
Okay,
Everything
all right.
that we can find that was not metered.
Okay.
Water breaks.
Okay. Ready for member forum. So I'm just going to go down the list if you're still here and would wish to speak to the board. Mr. Greg Bennett. At the end. Mr. Kent Tatum. Miss Nancy Forrester.
Nancy Forrester, Tidewater Drive. Last month I had a question, and I don't think that we really got a complete answer, so I wanted to present it again. There has been some insurance that for employees that had been, the contracts, I guess, had gone to an office where Phoebe's wife had worked. And the question was, who did that? How did anybody know about that? Did she receive any compensation for that? And does she now, or he,
Which insurance particular?
I believe it was a health insurance?
No, it's the whole casualty insurance package for the whole company, and it was transferred from Underwood Anderson to Fisher Brown, and that was done without board approval.
So this is your question, not hers?
It's not my question, I'm answering hers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I finish?
You
my
may,
answer?
sure.
Okay. It was done without board approval. It shouldn't have been done without board approval. Our insurance agent, Jim Grace with Underwood Anderson, has come before the board every year that I've been on this board, and probably for the last 20 years, to present an insurance proposal. We've had the opportunity to shop it with other companies. Our purchasing policy requires that any expenditures over $25,000 come before this board. That did not happen with that case. It was transferred without board knowledge, without board it being informed that it was transferred. We all found out about it after the fact.
Let me correct some of the facts. It did not come before the board, but we did not transfer our provider. We transferred the agent that gives that. So the agent we now have actually gives us risk management stuff. We were being charged duplicate for some of the same coverage, and there's a whole myriad of things that we now have a better product for a similar price. So
the board doesn't know that. We still haven't seen what the proposals were from the different insurance companies. That should have come to this board.
Mark, I'm not defending that. I wasn't in the position, so.
Did he and his wife receive any type of compensation or commission, or?
We don't know.
You don't know?
We don't know. I don't know.
Is that
I don't know that she was at that other firm.
As far as I know, the only thing that I've heard related to Mr. Peavy or his wife has been a rumor. No one has ever showed me any facts. There's nothing that anybody has shown us or has said, but it's just a rumor that's out there. And for us to speculate on rumors is just wrong.
I don't know that our finance people and procurement would have been the ones reaching out to getting quotes and reaching out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And Fisher Brown Material is a preeminent agent and provider, and there is absolutely zero financial connections, conflicts of interest. It had to do with Dallas Monroe Peavy, or his wife. That is specious rumor. That is not the case, and there is no money that has changed hands. The policies in place are the exact same policies that were in place prior to Dr. Peavy being here, and the agent of record change came about as a result of us looking at 20 some odd years of fairly lazy agent behavior who doubled and tripled up and financed some of our premiums. So in a full sunshine is the best disinfectant manner, we shopped our agents and looked for a more state-of-the-art agent who could offer us risk management, safety audits, videos, safety engineers, ways to reduce our premium, and to take a very 21st century look at how to reduce our premium and be our active risk manager throughout this organization. And there are no conflicts of interest with that agent relationship.
So you're saying absolutely that Peavy's wife does not work for them?
I have no idea what Dr. Peavy's wife does, but I can tell you that Fisher Brown Control would have had to give us that information as a conflict of interest and fully eliminate it, and that is not the case. Fisher Brown has been in this business and has been a preeminent insurance provider in Pensacola since the 1940s. They are in 20 some odd states, and they're one of the largest agents around, and they would not stand for any conflict of interest to be handled on their behalf.
So also then why was that not presented to the board with their proposal like you normally do?
I can't answer that. All I can say is, the point is taken, it should have come before the board. There was, it was very similar. Actually, it was only a 3% raise. The board actually looked at it and approved the board action without a meeting when they looked at all three different.
That was the health insurance.
Oh, sorry.
We're speaking about the liability.
Got it, okay, my bad.
From the health insurance perspective, we maintain the exact same Agent One digital that we had prior to Dr. Peavy coming. We did have an agent, I believe historically, I only came in not even near a year, there was a provider change, but in the health insurance space, you basically only have three. You fish from the same pond: Florida Blue, United Healthcare, Ferris and maybe another. So there really isn't a manner by which, that any of those firms would be in any way giving money back to an individual. These are enormous organizations. And clearly they have staff that is on staff to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest. But I cannot.
And that one was approved by a board without
Yes.
board action without meeting, because it had to be approved by a certain date.
Any other questions, Ms. Morris?
There's a reduction of 3.45.
No, I guess not, it just still sounds like a shaky deal.
Okay. But to your point, in the future, that we need to adhere to those, I agree. Yeah. Mr. Pullman?
Chuck Pullman, 2956 PGA Boulevard. I just got two quick questions. I'd like to know, and maybe some other people in the audience would also like to know this, how many bonuses have been given to our water system people in the last 3 years, and how much was it, and who got those bonuses?
Not good.
Is that, Mr. Will, I don't know that that's an HR issue and we're not really at liberty to say?
Right, that, we're in member forum, and you've heard the members' the comment. And there's no reason.
Legal, that's because it's an HR issue and it's a pay issue of the individuals. We're not at liberty to say. I'm just going to say it's kind of industry standard, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
And we as a board don't know anything about employee bonuses. The only thing the board does is discuss a bonus for the city.
No, that's not true, Mark. No, it's in company policy what the bonus is, so that's not true, you don't know. But we can't divulge it, so.
Why would that be public knowledge?
Because it deals with HR and pay of employees. Thank you, Miss HR lady, she's shaking her head, so we must be right. I'm not trying to be elusive, it's just, it's one of those things. How much what was your bonus this year? I don't want to, you see what I'm saying? So what's your insinuation?
I'm just asking a question.
Okay, all right.
I've heard a lot about bonuses being paid, and they're up this year compared to last year.
Well, since we're not even into that, we haven't even started budget discussions. I know there is a company policy that cover that, and I don't know that any board member is upset with that policy, but we'll have that discussion at that time, so.
My last question.
Yes, sir.
Last month, I brought up the question about nepotism and hiring of 2 employees that are family members of Dallas PD. And the board said that they have a nepotism rule and regulation in place, and now here we're reviewing the employee handbook. I don't know if that's going to be rewritten or what. Can you explain yourself or explain what the board is looking at doing with those 2 employees?
Well,
That's an employee issue.
Employee issue.
Yeah.
But the nepotism that you talk about is no longer valid.
No longer valid. When did that take place?
But that goes company policy, so there's many husband, wife, daughter working in there, they're just not in the chain of command, right? So not at the end. So because Mr. Peavy is no longer with the company, that doesn't apply. But nepotism, HR person, is not just familia. If Mark and I were in high school forevermore, that's nepotism if I hired him. You know, if we went to high school and all that, so my legal counsel tell me that. So the board, we addressed it, right? Some have known it for quite a while, and then when this all came to light, the board addressed that policy. So we will ensure that we enforce that policy.
So it's being rewritten, is what you're saying?
No, I wouldn't say being rewritten. I'd say it's going to be enforced. I don't know that we rewrote it per se. But again, the board has not reviewed that, so there may be directors that they put pen to it and they want to change some of it. So
we're not going to retroactive that. We're only going to enforce it going forward.
Well, how can you retroactive it?
If you went against the rule and regulation in the employee handbook, and what y'all stand by, it seems to me that something should be done.
So
And something was. He was removed.
What should be done?
No, I said something was done, he was removed.
Well, what about
The person that violated the policy was removed.
Anything
I
else?
already read that to him.
And here's one thing, Mr. President, I just want to say one thing. Whenever somebody asks us an employment-related question or a legal-related question and we don't answer it, the reason is because we don't want to get sued. And people will sue us. And they're not suing the board of directors, they're suing you guys. It's your money that we will lose in a lawsuit. So, understand that we're trying to protect the organization and the members.
But you broke the regulation.
I didn't.
The board did.
The
Board didn't know anything about it.
yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, next person, Angela Campbell.
I would like to address the board. When I was going through my review of the minutes, I could not find any mention of charitable donations or sponsorships in the minutes. Where would I find that information?
Charitable donations.
If the board was to sponsor an event or something like that, where would I find that information?
The board only has to approve it if it's over 25,000, and our total budget for the year, I think, was 12 or something like
Okay,
that.
so I run a dog rescue. If I want you to sponsor something, who do I go to? Do I just go to my husband and say, write me a check? Is that how it works?
CEO has spending authority to,
So is
Spend
it
it.
correct? Yeah, and I'm not going to do that, obviously. But
So that's good, because now it's on record.
But is it appropriate, and I'm asking everybody in the room, is this appropriate for a sitting board member to go to a subordinate staff member, the CEO, and ask for a check to be written? I don't think it is. Not for that project.
Okay, thank you for that. Greg Bretling?
So is there
Liz
something
Ogle?
there that the board missed?
Yeah, I don't think it should be done. I think if you're going to make charitable donations, it should be discussed and transparent in front
All
of
right,
members.
so just for the record then, with this sitting CEO, we are not doing any charitable contributions for the rest of the year. Just saying. No.
So you've already signed up for the rest of the year?
Okay, till I'm no longer the CEO.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Liz Ogle, 7450 Treasure Street, and I'm kind of here on behalf of my neighbors. I wanted to address an issue that happened on September 3rd with the sewer line and a sinkhole somewhere in or around Treasure Street. And I first wanted to know if that issue had been 100% resolved, if we found...
Mr. Clinton,
how
Treasure Street is now good to go. I can explain more of that if you like, but go ahead.
Okay, well, my next question is, why were the residents not told to turn off our grinder pumps? That I know that the crews were out there and they told me they were there for approximately 6 hours, but none of us were told, unless you had them in your yard, that we needed to turn off water pumps and conserve water, which in turn caused several of us to lose grinder pumps that overheated. So I wondered why there isn't a system to let residents know when there is some sort of emergency or water issue that we need to be immediately proactive about.
That is a good question. We actually addressed that because somebody sent me over there to Treasure Street when they saw the chatter on social media about what doing. And when I got there, he had 7 crew members diligently getting to do that. Those residents that stopped by were given an update. But to be honest, those crews were focused on getting that cleared. And it was actually sand from somebody's grinder pump or somewhere along the system because it was pressurized. And so we actually talked yesterday or the day before about our notifications because we had a water break at the county line that was caused by somebody putting in the stoplight there at the new Publix, and then our water line broke. And so we put up a board finally until the battery run out. And so unfortunately that was one of those things we didn't quite right, but we worked on it, we're working on it, and we're working on a system for a 24-hour notification that, hey, you have a line break here, you have something there. So unfortunately this was a case of the folks on the line trying to get it fixed as opposed to telling somebody to tell residents.
Right, and that is my concern, is that the texts were all fantastic. They came out. I know it was a holiday weekend, people were called back from vacation. But my concern is they had mentioned, oh, this funny, the same thing happened during 4th of July weekend a few streets down. and that residents need to know. Myself and several neighbors lost grinder pumps, and I'm wondering if there's some contribution or reimbursement for that, since it wasn't at our fault. Had we been notified, we could have turned those pumps.
Part two of that is we currently don't have a policy, procedure for a claim, right? So in conjunction with legal, again, this is what, because I think you were one that emailed. So we don't have a process to determine, okay, whose fault was it? Where was it? Where I get the experts that say how this happens, how it happens. We actually have, there was a sinkhole along there on an empty lot and a couple other things that we think contributed to that, but applying responsibility may be an issue. So if you give us a little bit, because that's one of the many tasks I have that's at the top of the list. What is our process for a member to come back and say, we think this is you versus me, and that sort of thing. But the one thing that, so did I answer that question?
You did, yes.
So the other part of that is that the water system, correct me if I'm wrong there, Clinton, we're responsible from the pump out, the meter out or the pump out, right? So some of the members didn't realize, hey, if my grinder pump is running and the red light's coming on, you need to turn it off. If it's, if you hear it running continuously, then you need to turn it off. So some of that is education of members on their equipment, because it's not ours. So we actually talked about getting an informational campaign out there, say, hey, here's your grinder pump. If it's doing this, you do this, turn it off, call a plumber for that sort of thing. Because we've had incidences where, plumbers saying there's a clog in the house, but then the member tries to say, well, it's in the grinder. So if you give me a few, like I don't want to define few, to actually run through that claims process and get with legal and finance and everybody to figure, okay, and then obviously somewhere along the line, the experts, okay, who is really responsible. So did that answer your question?
It did answer my question about reimbursement. I guess my bigger question is, first, I want to give a shout out to the crews that came out. They were all polite, professional. We really appreciated their time, but they kind of put the onus on us. If you can tell your neighbors to turn off their grinder pumps, if you can tell your neighbors to stop using water. And there was actually a group of us on Saturday morning that got together and we went door to door and did tell neighbors, which was a little awkward to tell them not to flush the toilets, but there just needs to be something in place to notify us much quicker than seeing a passive Facebook post or getting a knock.
I would have hoped with all those people that were on social media saying, hey, my backing up, that somebody would have said that. So.
But it should, I guess my point is, the responsibility shouldn't be for a neighbor to inform them that there's a problem in the line, because I don't have any authority.
Right.
That it needs to come from you guys so that we also know that we aren't, hurting each other by getting this.
Well, and the other thing that a lot of people did, instead of calling our emergency, calling the number, they just put it on Facebook and then we didn't know, right? So you heard, I got it. We actually had talked about a method to get to members sooner. Other than posting on the website and putting it on Facebook, we don't have a method that I'm aware of to call Treasure Street sort of thing. So we'll try to get better.
Hey, Joe, if I could put in a plug for everyone, Holly Navarre Water System has a portal. If you haven't logged on, created an account, also thereby giving us your email addresses, which may be an avenue for staff to be able to send this out to you in a proactive manner. So just so you know, we do have a portal there that you need to log in and register for.
Okay, Mr. Ash. Ms. Gano.
Again, Debbie Gano, 2143 Chatsworth Drive. And I hope that information doesn't get into somebody's hands that wants to come get me. It is on file. I have a two-part question to pose to each of you and expect a response from each individually. When were you aware of Mr. Peavy's background or reported questionable actions he took as CEO? What actions did you take at the time you were informed? And please quickly answer, as I only have 3 minutes. So Mr. Campbell, Joe Campbell, when were you aware of Mr. Peavy's background or a point when someone had informed you of the questionable action he took while he was CEO?
And Mr. Campbell, I would advise you not to answer.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Nobody's going to answer that, Ms. Gano, so what's your next
Okay,
point?
well, then here we go. Per the Holly Navarre Water System website, the Board of Directors' core values are one dream to become a company known for delivering innovative, quality, and safe products to the community. One team, as we are in the people business, creating a team culture that promotes performance, creativity, honesty, integrity, and sensitivity to employees, members, and partners is our utmost responsibility. Utmost responsibility. One member at a time, Holly Navarre Water System is committed to aligning our organization to serve the unique needs of each of our members to deliver greater value, responsiveness, quality, security, and innovation. Obviously, you have absolutely no concept of these ideals. This board, for the majority, permitted a man with a background of theft from his employer, and that is a plea deal court record CR 36616, to have full reign over our member-owned water system and destroyed any possibility of creating the one team of your core values. You gentlemen were elected to the board to protect us, the members, and ensure our company delivers great value, responsiveness, quality, security, and innovation. You failed. You abdicated your responsibilities to a person who should never have been entrusted with the complete and unfettered control of our company. You allowed the termination of qualified, loyal, and brain trust employees so positions could be filled by Mr. Peavy's family and trusted agents. Further, you accepted the concocted lies of Peavy even though his court records were public record. I'm sure you can certainly understand we have absolutely no confidence in your ability to continue overseeing our company. First action has already been taken, and I appreciate that being done. First action was to approve a forensic audit to ensure we are starting off with a clean slate. The next action required by members of this company is your resignation. Nothing less is acceptable. Thank you very much.
Ms. Gano, have you ever been on this board?
I was on this board.
Were you? And how long were you on the board?
Oh, about 4 months, and yes, I was fired.
Why were you fired?
Because supposedly I brought embarrassment to the board.
Okay. Well, let me just say, if I can...
there were personnel conflicts that were going on at the time.
Okay.
I probably made some poor judgments back during that time, but yes, I was fired.
Okay.
But
So-
we want to fire you, and if we won't get your resignations, we'll work on that through the election process. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Cosby. Somebody put your name on there? No, that's all right. Don't worry about it.
I am a member, and I am a customer, and I pay my...
Don't point at me, Mr. Cosby. Do not point at me. If you want to speak, come up to the...
You hear me?
Put up to the... Mr.
Podium.
On your little snide little remark, Kurt Cosby, 6839 Marble Street. I am a member, and more importantly, I'm a customer that pays his bills. So watch yourself.
Thank you for that threat. Mr. Chad Phillips. Chad? You don't want to talk, Chad? David Crumbly. Bob Kluski. Deanna Lipscomb. Ms. Reynolds, you're on here again.
May I take a minute? May I take a minute, please? I'm sitting back there stewing, and my question to you is, what does my past on this water board have to do with anything that you guys have taken
You
in the
just called
past few
in,
weeks?
you called into questions
Thank you very much. My past does not have anything to do with what you have done on this water board. Thank you very much. I want that on the record. You have offended me for what you have said. Nothing that I've done has anything to do with you guys. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell, let Ms. Reynolds speak first. Sit, please. We're going to follow the procedure. I know I'll be in trouble later.
Carmen Reynolds, Sunnybrook Drive. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't able to address before the Black Skimmer when we had a semi-restaurant here. That was under CEO Williamson's tenure, and I'd advised at that time that we had a shovel-ready restaurant willing to come in. She was there that night. She had opened Outbacks everywhere in 7 different locations. She wanted to put a steak restaurant in here with a delivery ability. And I had advised the board at the time that the Black Skimmer people had medical issues and were not going to be financially stable. So I'm not here to say woulda, shoulda, coulda, but I'm here to say we can go forward with something more lucrative for this location, and if you would desire, I would be willing to contact her and see if she's still available to do that. Secondly, I wanted to talk with you about the rumors we have heard about the deficits and the planned rate increases. While we're at a 40-year high inflation, while seniors in our community are on fixed incomes and juggling the increases with the fire tax, the school district increase in taxes, the Florida Power and Light incremental increases, others are struggling, families with their mortgages, adjustable rate mortgages and rising costs. It is incumbent on you gentlemen to understand this is not monopoly money. This is our membership money. It should be taken care of seriously, judiciously, with financial prudence. Here are some good cost-cutting measures to consider before anticipating any future rate increases. First, review all economies and efficiencies in your operations. Seek redress of grievous errors and omissions from the headhunter recruiting agency that you employed to bring in Mr. Peavy. They have insurance policies. We could get some of that money back. I asked this question last month, haven't heard any response. Review the cell phone inventory to ensure the necessity for all employees to have those cell phones, and the vehicle usage, and the gas card usage. Eliminate redundancies. Insist on 3 bids before contracting. Stop out of the ordinary expenditures. Stop the steep discounts to developers to the detriment of the small business owners
4 minutes.
and residents. No more building construction projects. What is the Taj Mahal's cost up to now? It's been unavailable to your customers and your business customers for a long time. Stop the almost 12,000 or more annual charitable deductions. I was happy to hear you say that. Scale down the annual $1.5 million Lamborghini healthcare plan for the employees. We're not against them. We are into cost-cutting measures any business would be advocating for. Are we paying the deductibles and co-pays? Also, does this extend to the spouses and the dependents? If there is no deductible, consider electing to bring one in effect to bring costs down. Cease paying Lamborghini health care coverage for employees in the 2 for-profit companies under Holly Navarre Water System, which include the Club at Hidden Creek and the Municipal Engineering Services Incorporated.
Ms.
Until
Carmen,
further notice
you're at 5
instituted.
minutes, just so you know. I'll let you finish, but you're at 5
A
minutes.
hiring freeze, a promotions freeze, no pay increases so everyone enjoys and shares in the pain, no bonuses, stop the free annual Sam's membership club for all employees and perks, consider not paying the COLA this year, and Delta Airlines, their member-owned company, in their Atlanta Journal-Constitution article, talked about Delta agreeing to pay their pay cuts to avoid furloughs, salary reductions to avoid losing their jobs. Maybe we should look at things like this. In summary, it is up to this board to ensure due diligence is extended to evaluate oversee and implement any or all of these deficit addressing measures. Thank you. And
Okay,
I
and that-
again ask
Just-
for a 4-minute extension on the time limit.
Right, but you talked for 6, and I didn't stop you. I want that noted.
And there was a spouse up here many times who jumped in front of others.
And I will, and just for the record, our expenses went up 7% last year. We had no rate increase last year, just for the record. So I refute some of your accusations about the board not caring and not doing a business like minded. So thank you for this. Mr. DiGiorno? DiGiorno? Okay. Any last? Okay.
In the back.
Last item, last person.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna be quick. Mr. Chairman, Jerry Foster, 7860 Lowell Circle, here in Boston. I just had a real quick, simple question, but now with all of this that's taking place, let me be different, unaccustomed as I am, and say, you're to be commended for the way you're handling things right now. This is only my second time in 17 years coming to a board member meeting, and I'm not apologizing for anything that's been said because that's their opinion. I'm just saying that I wanted to come up earlier and just say that 3 months ago, my wife and I, when she was alive, we were coming home one night, and we were coming down 399 as we often do, and I had the rooftop open because it was a beautiful evening and we got soaking wet. So I'm asking if that third T sprinkler head has been adjusted.
Commissioner Peach hit us with the same thing, so yes.
So for that, I'm thankful. I wish my wife was here now so we could enjoy that drive-by, but, and the other thing that, as I was sitting in the back thinking about, is there any progress or any movement so that we can pay our bills back online without paying extra to pay our bills online? Not that I don't mind
I think
driving
it's-
by, but, you know,
I think it's just the 3% convenience fee we charge, right? $3 convenience fee.
They charge me.
Say again?
There are other methods that you can use to pay without going online to that third-party website.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry. I'm deaf in one ear and hard of hearing out of the other because I'm on my 82nd ride on this third rock around.
She said there's other ways to pay.
Oh, I know there's other ways,
Okay.
which is what I'm doing, but I'm trying to be, you know, one of the woke people.
You can go online and make the payment to our third-party website, so.
When I used to pay online, it was very easy. And I used to pay early. Now I've got to drive, 3 miles up and put it in, or I must got to get the other time.
I'm sure if you get with Ms. Ander, Director of Member Services, she'll give you your best option for you to pay.
Yeah, spike check.
I think there's an automatic bank draft that you can do that there's no fee.
Okay?
I can't hear it because everybody's
No, I
yelling
know,
back here.
I know.
You need a gavel.
Hang on. I'm trying to be polite. So if you get with Ms. Amber, she'll tell you the different ways you can pay, all right?
Thank you for your
All right.
time.
I'll entertain a motion. No,
To adjourn.
Hang on.
And thank you, board members, for serving.
Hang on, Mr. Kennedy, go ahead.
All right, so, board, as some of you know, my stepfather passed away in April, and we've been going up and down to see my mom for months. And I'm needed with my mom, so we'll be moving to be closer to my mom. And, this has been my home. I've been honored to be on this board with you, to serve the members, and we had some good times. We're in a bad lull now, but that'll all work itself out. We all get along in the long run. But again, I just want to reiterate the staff, they're amazing. Whatever this board does, thank you, sir. So, with that said, you will be receiving my resignation.
Okay.
So it has been my honor, and
And thanks for what you've done, not here, but the rest of the community, Mike.
thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to
But you've been pretty good.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Darrell seconds, all in favor, say aye. Aye.